You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello and welcome to the 42 Cast, your ultimate answer to fandom, geekiness, and everything. As always, I am your host, Nathan, and we have another great episode lined up for you where we're going to talk about Phase 5 of the MCU. But before we do that, let's meet our cast for this week. So, starting off, he hasn't been on the show for a while, but he's the guy with little tiny arms and also comes at us from the Hunger Games, and that is Mike. How are you doing, Mike?
I am doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I love the fact that your various names, give me so many things to spin off of with you.
I know. It is my superpower, I will say, and my ego loves it.
You know, even though this is an audio podcast, the fact that you're like streaming at us from in front of a green screen but don't have a background just is borderline, I think, a little offensive.
Yeah,
Can you put a little effort in, Mike?
Well, so I will say, like, you got the inaugurated. This is the first stream podcast, whatever you want to call it, that I've done so far, being in my brand new house, in my actual studio room, and you broke really the cherry on this one.
Oh, wow. So well, I am honored.
I haven't recorded anything in this room until now, Nathan. So congratulations to the 42 cast.
Okay, but now that you are Mike Nelson, of course. So now that you have your own studio, you are going to have bots, right?
Yes, I have a 3D printer
Okay.
I'm looking at right now. I have STL files, and I just got to get the filament.
This is like 10 years in the making.
It is.
So you can't have the name Mike Nelson and not be doing Mystery Science Theater. Like, that's just like your calling in life.
Yeah, don't worry. This is the green screen camera. I have another table on the other side of this camera that's actually at the background of the wall that I'm going to have action figures on and everything.
Amazing. And do you do events as Jeffrey Wright also? That should be your other.
I haven't gotten to the cosplay realm yet, but I know it's coming. I'm pretty sure I can put together.
You can charge money for that, man,
Gordon.
because you resemble him so well. Your mother was confused. So I mean, like that's saying something.
Yep, I get reminded of that every year on my birthday and Christmas.
Oh, does she bring it up?
Either she brings it up or my friend who made my profile picture is at family gatherings and he brings it up and she's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that."
That is so funny. But yeah, it's great to have you back on the show, Mike.
It is great to be back, sir.
All right. All right. Next up, she is our resident MCU expert. She absolutely loves Stargate, and that is my friend Allie. How are you doing, Allie?
Hi, I'm pretty good. Been very busy.
So what's going on for you right now?
Lots and lots of stuff. I'm currently revising a novel. I'm submitting that to somebody for a developmental edit. So lots of work going into that. Got a lot going on, just various projects and things, getting ready for Dragon Con. Just so much going on. So many nerdy things flitting through my brain.
Well, that is good. It's always good to have a lot of nerdy things going on.
I know, I agree.
Well, it's good to have you back on the show, Allie.
I'm very happy to be here.
All right. And finally, is someone that wasn't even supposed to be on this podcast, but I shot an Angie signal into the sky and she came, and that is our angel of audio, Angie. How are you doing, Angie?
Doing very well. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, and it's good to have you replacing Ryan, who bailed out at the last minute.
Just remember this when we get to episode 300. I don't I don't want to be the surprise death.
Well, I mean, technically, Ryan's already been killed off in episode 100. So
And
I don't
somehow he
know.
returned. I
That's
don't know.
well. That's do you remember in episode 200? I made you say somehow Ryan has
I
returned.
do, and I'm not Palpatine. Yep.
Um, but
I
yeah,
will say that I did finally watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3 to be on this episode, and
I
I think
appreciate you. Was it
it
the
was all for
traumatic
you.
event you thought it would be?
I think I was forewarned enough,
Okay.
and that it was enough of a buffer. I think I'm everyone who told me not to see it in the theater was absolutely correct. I appreciate all of you. Thank you. I could see it from the privacy of my home next to tissues, and could pause to scream when I needed to.
Hmm. And for those wondering, the Angie signal is just a really big light behind a statue of Athena, and it projects into the sky. And
We'll have to
that's
figure out a social media option at some point.
but it's good to have you back on the show, Angie.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So normally we'd have our 5 minute controversy right here, but actually I did know that we did have it planned for Angie to come in this episode. I suspected Ryan might go, but I thought because he didn't say anything until like a couple hours ago that he was actually coming, so I didn't prepare a 5 minute controversy because I thought we are gonna have four guests. So it's all Ryan's fault if you wanted one, but
I feel like
we're just
we'll be controversial enough
yeah, we
on our
might be. I
own.
mean,
Yeah.
Mike, before you came on, Mike was already being controversial, so you
Yeah.
fronted it a little bit.
So much of it.
So yeah, so we're just gonna dive right into it right after we pause for a promo from another fine podcast.
Hello, Internet weirdos. If you watched Land of the Lost every Saturday morning, did the Al Jaffe fold in every month in Mad Magazine, and listened to every song on the Pac-Man Fever album 8,000 times, why, you just might be as weird as us. So join us on the Flopcast. It's a silly podcast for silly people on the ESO network and at flopcast.net.
And we're back. And like we mentioned at the top of the show, we are talking about Phase 5 of Marvel. And so just to define what we're covering for people who don't really pay attention to the phases, and even with Marvel, it gets a little fuzzy because of when things are announced and how they seem, and sometimes one project may be a little bit fuzzy. But what we're defining as Phase 5 today is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, The Marvels, Captain America: Brave New World, The Thunderbolts, asterisks, Secret Invasion, Loki Season 2, Echo, Agatha All Along, Daredevil Born Again, and Ironheart. And we are recording this, even though this is going to come to you after Fantastic Four. We are recording this just before Fantastic Four, because I wanted us to be pure on Phase 5 only. Something that matters only to me, but I didn't want to know anything about Phase 6 yet, so we're recording during Phase 5. So yeah, I mean, let's just sort of start off with, I think, sort of the big, when you're thinking about the MCU in sort of a macro way, and it's really apparent to me, especially since I host the show, that there is a lot of negativity about the MCU beyond the normal troll activity. There's always been sort of like the troll, or at least after like the first like run, like Phase 1 type run after the first Avengers, there's always been these trolls out there trying to naysay and say like certain projects are, bad for whatever reason, female led, led by people of color, whatever, pandering, woke, all that stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who were all into the MCU, watched everything, and I've noticed in the last couple of years and with this phase that started trickling off. People aren't watching all the shows, they're not watching all the movies, or they're waiting a very long time, to do that. And so I'm curious how everybody feel. Do you feel like Phase 5 is like a noticeable quality drop from previous phases, or do you think that there's something else at work here? Um, so I'll start with you on this one, Allie.
So, in terms of quality, I'm gonna talk Phase 5 at Dragon Con. So I've been thinking about this a lot.
Mm,
And one of the first things I did was I just sort of like put them in three buckets of bad movie, good movie, and like just like a Marvel movie. By which I mean like the baseline, it is a Marvel movie, but it's not necessarily bad, not necessarily good.
mm,
And really, I only put two things in the bad bucket. I had a lot in the good bucket. So to me, like quality wise, I think the quality has not dropped off as much as like the box office seems to suggest. Um, but I do think it is a problem more of what now people in the Marvel community are saying out loud instead of just saying behind their hands, which is that um, it's become more homework because of the quantity. Um, just the entirety of phase four was longer than all of the Infinity Saga. Like that already that's insane. And then we had phase five on top of it, and phase five is only slightly shorter than phase four. So that is a lot more content to watch. It's a lot more story, a lot more character. And if you're all in on it, it's fine. But if you're not, it feels like you have to be watching a lot more. You have to spend a lot more time. And then it doesn't help that we've had the real world stresses of a pandemic that led us into phase four. And then some of that changed habits, like movie going habits.
mm,
So I think some of the box office drop is really just people are out of the habit of going to the theater. They've got a nice television at home, and
mm,
so they don't mind waiting. And I think when you put all of those things together, it accounts for the drop off at the box office and then the perceived drop off in quality. Um, because everyone who actually went to see Thunderbolts, for example, said it's great.
mm,
I haven't really heard negative things about the movie, just that people didn't go see it. So then you have to really analyze, well, why didn't they go see it? And the obvious things become that most of the last appearances of those characters were in a Disney Plus show. Even though you've got somebody like Bucky who has been there since pretty much the very beginning, um, his last appearance, significant appearance, was in a Disney Plus show. And Val is, even though she was in Wakanda Forever, um, people still think of her as like, oh, but she appeared on that Disney Plus show first. And so if they missed Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they may not watch, really know who she is. And even though, like I kept saying, Wakanda Forever, she was in Wakanda Forever. um, but I can understand feeling like there's more homework to do. Which is why whenever people ask me for their opinions of if they should go see something, I tell them what they would actually need to see before viewing it. And in many cases, it's nothing because Thunderbolts, I think you could go in cold
mm,
and be fine. Or maybe just like, here's who Yelena is, and now you're good. Um, but a lot of this movies this year or this phase, I don't think you need to have a lot of Marvel knowledge. The Marvels and maybe Ant-Man. I think you need to know a lot going in. Um, Guardians, of course, it's the third one. It's the end of a trilogy. So,
right.
but but yeah, I think there's a lot of intimidation there.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, like really John Walker's the only one that comes from a Disney. Like all the rest of them
Yes.
are characters
Yes.
that were introduced in movies. So it's one of
Yep.
those things where I actually kind of squinted at Feige's comments about that because I was like, and they explain who John Walker is pretty, well in the movie. So it's like I
But
don't, yeah.
also, like, Black Widow released streaming. So technically, Black Widow is a Disney Plus movie
It was in the theaters. I saw it in the theaters.
for like
Yeah.
2 seconds.
Okay.
I think wasn't that the
I
one
did
that
not
was
see
a
that.
Shots fired.
combo? I think it was a combo. Like
was
the
a
streaming
combo.
was
It was
almost immediately after the
it was
theatrical.
immediate, yeah.
I recall
But I
there being
think
a lawsuit.
there was
All
a
right, yeah,
lawsuit.
that's right. Yes, yeah, there was a lawsuit. Yeah.
But I think that
Yeah.
might be part of what the thinking is that a lot of people missed it in theaters and therefore it made it a Disney Plus series. I mean, it's kind of bending what is a Disney Plus series,
Mhm.
but I can at least understand because there's a lot of characters who come out of that specific movie
Mhm.
that people skipped. So I understand.
All right. So, Mike, yeah, what do you think? Has there been a quality drop off in Phase 5?
I mean, you were at the peak of the mountain. We ended so highly with Endgame and the Infinity Saga, and even going into a little bit of Phase 4 was kind of still we're coming on down the side of the mountain, trying to kind of keep that high, and even going now into Phase 5, it's yes. I'm not going to say it really was that quality esque. I do agree with Kevin Feige that it was definitely a quantity. And I will say, as a binge person that definitely doesn't go to the movie theaters anymore, like,
Mhm.
I was certainly worried because I haven't seen Thunderbolts yet, but I watched it this past weekend because I'm
Okay.
like, gonna wait till gonna wait for it to show up on Disney Plus, which is like August or September. I'm like, ooh, this podcast might be a little weird, but I had friends over. Paid the $30 on Amazon Prime and I watched it, so at least I was prepared for the podcast. But I mean, I'm a streamer. I'm a binger. That's what I really do. So
Mhm.
the quality for me was still kind of on par, but I have to remind myself that I can't be on that same high as everything after Endgame. Everything that happened afterwards is like I'm not going to reach that high again. I certainly knew I was going to not reach it with Kang. Even with Doctor Doom next year, I'm not going to prep myself that I'm going to reach that high. It's just not going to be possible. So I'm limiting my own expectations to hopefully psych myself out of it. But what we got is absolutely, I think, is great stuff. It's definitely been hit and miss for sure, but I'm gonna say like even the 120 over 100 hours that we got now in this phase versus what we got last time, like no, I ate everything up, no crumbs left.
Okay. Angie?
Yeah, I think I'm largely with Allie. I agree with almost everything she said. To just tee off what Mike was maybe talking about, I don't know if it's a quantity drop off so much as a novelty drop off. And there are a lot of things that I think in retrospect I forgave because it was new. They were
Mhm.
trying new things. You'd never seen these characters on a large screen before. Were there things that if they were coming out today, those same films, we would gloss over because we were so excited at the time that like this story, these characters are on the big screen. And I think that novelty has worn off. Maybe for better or for worse, because really now we can look at the movies as they're coming out and judge them. Is this a good film? Is it not necessarily, it's the new Marvel film. We're so psyched, get hype. Like, where Thor Dark World was kind of this almost viewed as this like random blip in this sea of quality and happiness. And I think that's maybe rose tinted glasses looking back on it. So yeah, quality I think I think the lows in Phase 5 were pretty low. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but the highs were also really, really like Thunderbolts is probably up there. It might be I have to rewatch it, but it's up there in my top like three or four. It was
Yeah.
fantastic. I loved every second of it. So yeah, not the quality I think the quality is still pretty high. But I think our tolerance for minor quibbles or even more major quibbles is just much lower now.
Yeah.
Uneven,
Yeah, yeah.
grossly uneven.
Much more like
And
Star
then
Wars. Very wildly, tonally, tonally inconsistent, and that's part
it
of the charm.
and it doesn't help when a miss is 6 hours long because it's a television series and not a movie.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so like it's weird to me coming in because I was the staunch defender in Phase 4 when everybody came out with the knives and the
Me too.
pitchforks. And because I still feel the first four movies of Phase 4 were great. I had no issues with any of those. Now, as we taper it off at the end of Phase 4 with Multiverse of Madness and then with Thor: Love and Thunder, the film nadir of the MCU. I I was like, but I was like, okay, well, we hit a rough patch, but things, they got better, like they got better after that. So, we kind of closed out the phase a little bad, but and on TV side, I thought it was doing really well. So I was like, loved
Mhm.
the Phase 4 TV shows, all that stuff. So I feel like, things are going pretty well. I gotta say, this time though, with this group of content, I I had a lot more shows that while I liked overall, or films that while I liked overall, had things that I didn't like in them that were like almost glaringly obvious. Like, why did you let that pass? Like, I mean, I talked about how with Quantumania in the Quantumania episode, it was a movie that I both loved and disliked. Now, that's not, that still averages out to better, right? Because it wasn't love and hate, it was loved and disliked. But it was almost like these two things. It was like you're trying to mix two like elements that don't like actually mix together into like a solution, right? And it's just like it's two things you're trying to clump together. Where it was like there was stuff like Modoc that was just like this is horrible. Why would you even, both visually and character wise, why would you even do this? And then mixed with things like the depiction of Kang in that movie, which I thought was fantastic tour de force performance. And I just I didn't understand like where these like elements were. Now, I mean, Feige is see, the thing is, whenever people give interviews, you have to think about agendas with interviews. Um, so you can't take everything at face value. He's blaming it on quantity, and that's fine. I think something is systemically wrong if Feige has to personally oversee every I dotted and T crossed. There should be some way of the directors being given their own ropes and being able to produce like quality content on their own, because it's not like one person is direct. If one person was directing all this content, I would certainly say, my God, like you cannot have one person produce all of this. You're gonna like burn them out. So, I still look askance at a lot of the things that he was saying because I'm like, it's an easy soundbite. Ah, too much content. Of course, that's Bob Iger's, as soon as he took back
Yeah.
over at Disney, that was immediately what he came out with. So, I mean, Feige's sort of, giving the party line, and that's fine. I'm
Yeah.
I'm still a little concerned about things. Now, they're scaling back, so that should give everyone more time, going into face it. But yeah, I personally feel like there was something wrong with this phase in general, even though I'll agree Thunderbolts was an outstanding
Hmm.
smash success, on all quality metrics, even if it wasn't a smash success at the box office. And I'm hopeful that that means that that's a return to that in general for Marvel content here forward. But I've been starting to, just feel flagged by the stuff that's coming out just because there just seemed like every project that came out, there was something I really didn't like about it, even if I felt like overall, it's it's overall good, but there's always that one thing that I didn't like about it. I'm actually kind of curious, Ali, and I know I'm rushing myself a little bit because I want to talk about favorites and things that we liked the least. But I'm curious what your two, because you mentioned your bucket and what your two.
I
I
was
mean, I know one
well.
Secret
Oh,
Invasion,
my
right?
two ones. Yeah, one is
Yeah.
Secret Invasion. The other one actually is Quantum Mania.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
because I felt it was so ridiculously uneven that I
Okay.
was, and like, but like you, there's stuff that I really enjoyed about it. Like it was what I wanted the Multiverse of Madness to be in terms
Mm.
of like going into a weird place.
Mm-hmm.
But and so I liked that kind of stuff, but then there was just enough that I was like, this is definitely for me the lowest film, and that is partially because I am here for the Flurkins in the Marvels. Do I recognize that there are problems with that movie? Absolutely, but I am here for the Flurkins.
Okay.
Um, I want to jump off of what you were saying though, about something being wrong with Phase 5 and not really quite being able to articulate exactly what it is.
Hmm.
And the thing that I am most surprised about is in Phase 4, one of the main critiques was that it was directionless. And I haven't heard that critique of Phase 5, and 5 is the one that I think is the most directionless. Phase 4 had a unifying quality of it being about characters' grief, like so many of the series in particular, but some of the movies as well are have grief as a core, and so we've grieved. So Phase 5 is not that, and I've been trying to figure out like, is there like some emotional core or something else that is going on in Phase 5, and I cannot put a finger on it, and so it is the one that seems the most directionless to me,
Yeah,
because
it's like a emotional gap year. I don't like
yes,
it's yeah,
but
like how long ago were they did they announce Doomsday? Like that's all
I
I've heard
know.
about. Like
I,
But also, there's no connective tissue to what is going to be the multiverse saga. Like by now in phase 2, where we would have been, we were starting to see Infinity Stones pop up. And, we'd already been teased Thanos, and like it was obvious where we were going. And now, even though we've had Multiverse of Madness and Loki and Deadpool and Wolverine, it still doesn't feel like this is coalescing. And I think it's all going to be in phase 6 at this point. And we're going to have these couple of bits that we're going to be able to point to and be like, it was there and there. But it does not at all feel as cohesive as the Infinity Saga. And I think that's part of what feels wrong. And
well, uh, I mean, there wasn't that much in the Infinity Saga that really, like, yes, we did have Thanos
yeah.
that pop up a couple times, and we did have mention of the Infinity Stones and whatnot. But like, we had the end of Multiverse of Madness that teased, like, the reality is going to collapse, right? And we've had the end of the Marvels, which shows
Mhm.
Monica, trapped in another universe. So I mean, like, they've been doing several things to like sort of like in fact that was one of the things that I said that people were talking about with the Marvels, that I was like, it finally feels like Marvel's drawing things together again, whereas before it just, because that was one of the big complaints, right? Why isn't anybody
Right.
referencing anything else that's happening?
Oh my God.
um and I was like, the Marvels is taking three characters from three different series
Yep.
and not only weaving them together in the way that Avengers wove the disparate
Hmm.
characters that it took in, but is also like giving us the groundwork for the next thing, which is, that post-credit scene, which is what a lot of what we were seeing in the first couple of phases in the MCU was those post-credit scenes. So I feel like we did. I mean, the less said about the end of Brave New World, the better. With, oh, do you know a multiversal war is coming? I do.
Yeah,
Like
I
that.
put that out of my brain.
But at least they are. I mean, but that was though another example of them trying to like say like this is a thing that's coming and
But all of
whatnot.
those
So
those are all in credit scenes. Like we
right,
had whole movies that were about an Infinity Stone. We may not have known it was about an Infinity Stone during that first movie,
okay. Then we have
but
to talk about the other big thing is the bait and switch, which Feige is
yeah.
now saying, "Oh, we were already
Yes,
planning
yes,
that. That
yes.
had nothing to do with Jonathan Majors and what happened with him. This is the plan all along." But it's like we had so much narrative weight behind
Yep.
Kang, and we were setting up Kang. So, I mean, this is a problem that they created themselves, and I think feeds into what you're talking about because we had Loki, we
Yep.
had Quantumania, we were supposed to have a Shang-Chi 2, which was going to have
Hmm.
Kang, Shang-Chi and the Wreckage of Time. There was going to be Celestials at the end of time, which was going to be the next Eternals movie, and those two movies were canceled outright. And now Loki almost feels pointless. I mean, I know that Tom
Hmm.
Hiddleston's going to show up in Doomsday, so some of the, but like most Loki mostly feels like a pointless, endeavor. Quantumania feels like a pointless endeavor. Like all those things were like, well, we were setting up narrative weight
Hmm.
behind this as the big bad we were setting up, and now it's just like, okay, well, we don't want to work with him, and we're just going to yank him off the table. And this I'm jumping ahead, but it's hard because all these things are interwoven together. And this is what really annoys me because I've been saying for a decade, when you do Doom, you got to do him right, slow build up, not like just shoot him out. And now it's just like, oh, well, Doom, we're going to have a movie that's going to have like 20 Avengers in it, but we're also introducing Doom in it. I mean, accounts vary on whether Doom will be in Fantastic Four at all, but if he's in Fantastic Four at all, it's like tiny, right? He's not going to be a major character. And so, so we're basically going to have Doomsday to introduce Doom and also have 20 Avengers in it. And it's like, it's not the way you do this. And they're going to ruin Doom by doing this bait and switch, which I'm still livid over. They should have recast Kang. I think that this is ridiculous, but
I think they
yeah.
could have. I do believe that they were talking about Doom, but I would have thought that it would have been either a double villain or
Mhm.
a not necessarily a bait and switch, but that we find out here's the big bad. They defeat Kang in what would have been Kang Dynasty in Secret Wars is all Doom. Um, that's kind of where I thought they might have been going anyway, because I didn't understand how Kang connected to Secret Wars in any way that made a lot of sense. Like I could see it, but I was like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well,
Um,
I mean, I can say that they mishandled Kang because they tried to
yes, they
make
did.
Kang more about the multiversal aspect, where to me, the time travel aspect is the thing that's interesting about Kang, and they really undercut that. But that's because of how they've done time travel in the MCU too, which makes that
Ugh.
extremely problematic. So it's one of those things where I hope whatever reset happens at in Secret Wars also allows us to reset the way like physics works in the MCU and let time travel like make some kind of rational sense because yeah, uh,
In the comics, it's known history. Kang has always had a partner. It's very rare you see
Oh,
Kang actually working on his own to be the big bad for Fantastic Four or for the Avengers for anyone. It's like, nope, Kang always had a partner, whether it
even
was
when
like
it's
Doctor Doom
himself.
himself or someone else.
There's an Avengers story. One of the early Avengers storylines is like Kang just keeps going back in time to assist himself, and so it's like you end up with like six Kangs, like because they're all like, "Well, we lost, so I'm gonna go back and like help
Yeah.
myself again and fix the thing that we did that time and keep." Yeah, it's
they could have done Kang as a comedy. Oh my God.
yeah.
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, like, that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about, though. Like, what do you think? Like, what do you think about that? The fact that we've had all this. Well, I mean, because the first half of Phase 5/Phase 4 was kind of leading us down this road of there's this character coming, Kang, and or He Who Remains, or any of the names that any of his various alternates go by. And this is a thing that's coming, and then just to have Loki season 2, where I know this is like an added line at the end, it's just like where they say something to the effect of, "Oh, seems quiet on the Kang front," or something like that, where it's just like, they basically swept it under the rug with a throwaway line at the end of Loki season 2 to just say like, "We're not going to see him anymore." It's just so I mean, Angie, I know that you were very critical of how season 1 of Loki, like with the reveal of He Who Remains at the end, because you know nothing about Kang and you felt like it didn't sell him to you in that. But like, how do you feel about the fact? Like, do you feel though at least that there was some narrative weight between that and season 2? Most of season 2 of Loki was still pushing Kang until that end line, and then like Quantumania and all that. Like, how do you feel about that? And just kind of being like, "Oh no, we're not doing anything with that."
Yeah, my issue with season one of Loki wasn't so much the inclusion of Kang, it was that he got introduced like in the last episode So if you don't already have a background of knowing who this character is and you're therefore excited to see him show up, he's just a dude who shows up and talks for 30 minutes. And it made it a bad show, in my opinion. So the second season did not have that problem. The characters were established. The show worked narratively for what it was. Like, so yeah, I didn't have any um issues there. And I think, this is something where the meta did impact how I viewed. Like, I wonder if I would have been upset with how easily he was dispatched and kind of tossed off if I didn't know about the lawsuit and all of the real life stuff. But at the time, I thought it was kind of funny, and I have to wonder, yeah, because your first thought is, why didn't you just recast? But I almost wonder if the lesson they took was, oh, can't depend on a single human. That human might end up being a bad person. It might be a bad choice. Like, so maybe that decision is let's spread out the risk a little bit more. And that's why they didn't just recast. But yeah, it is a bit of a mystery because the plan was there. If you have Marvel money, you can pay whatever you need to pay. We know because they paid Robert Downey Jr. It seems like you could have found a Liu Kang that without too much heartburn to just slide in. But
in the days before a last minute rewrite added Giancarlo Esposito to Brave New World, he was available. He could have been the new Kang, as I lobbied for consistently for like a year. But no, we've got this great prime role for him as Sidewinder. Oh,
I would be okay if Sidewinder came back.
I would be okay, 100%.
I mean, I'd be okay with that. I mean, since they've hired him for that role, they better bring him back. But like, it was such a nothing role in Brave New World that I was like, you squandered Giancarlo for this? Anyway, all right, Mike, how do you feel about like how things have gone with Kang?
And it was disappointing is the greatest word I can really say. And I mean, honestly, Jonathan Majors really laid the bed that he has to lay in now. And I mean, I am not the perfect person either. I mean, I got my skeletons, everyone does, but I mean, it's like, if I have to sign the contract for the mouse, I am top of the line, P's and Q's, yes ma'am, no sir, all the time, because there's no way I am ruining my chance at all to work for Disney, to work for Marvel at all.
I just want to put in here really quick. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have cut ties with Jonathan Major. I'm saying that they didn't have to cut ties with the character by cutting ties with Jonathan. We've recast Rhodey. We've recast Bruce Banner. Marvel has done recasts before, so I'm just saying they could have recast him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really like the tough part is like, should we have recasted Kang immediately? And, like we just heard, no one was really liking Kang. Not a freaking person. I mean, certainly I was liking it because his introduction in Loki was very interesting. I liked that acting that was done for that character. And even seeing in Quantumania was great.
Mike, because I know you're an X-Men the Animated Series fan, it was a deep cut because I swear he watched Beyond Good and Evil Part 4, which is also Kang at the end of time. It's this, like the hidden reveal at the end of the episode that it's actually Kang. And he acts like this sort of demented, crazy guy, and I was like, oh my God, they're like, that's like the deepest cut possible, but that's what they're doing.
But I certainly would have loved to see what Kang can do, because even my knowledge and history of Kang in the comic books, like, I always saw him as a Fantastic Four villain, barely really an Avenger level villain. So seeing like, we're going to make this.
On the whole, he's appeared as Kang more often with the Avengers. Like a lot of his variants have shown up in Fantastic Four, like Scarlet Centurion, Immortus. But I think on the whole, he's shown up more as Kang with the Avengers. I could be wrong.
And so I'm certainly interested to see what was going on, but there's a part of me that I feel like should have been just recasted. We literally, like you said, we have so many. I hate the word variant at this point. It's really a trigger word with me now because I just hate it so much.
I know,
But
I relate it too.
we have all these variants of King. I really could have. We could have easily threw a story in there. It's like, why does this King look different? Oh, I had surgery. Pachoo, pachoo. Oh, y'all are dead. Bye. I'm now leader of the council. And we could have easily played that off, written it into it. But I think just the wind of the sails from the lack of success from Quantumanium, where like that was Kang's story in of itself, and it's just like no one was really buying it, no one was really liking it, and then everything that happened. I mean, the pivot, it hurts. It hurts so much because, like you said, we've been in this limbo waiting for like where's the direction we're gonna go, and I am not a fan of choosing Doc Doom at all. We could have easily done a better job with trying to pivot and let Doc Doom actually naturally progress properly. And certainly, I love the idea too of here's Kang Dynasty, and here's we introduce Doctor Doom, and then Doctor Doom's here in Decent Worlds. Because at this point, all I'm seeing with what we're doing with Doctor Doom is like we're getting God Emperor Doom. That's the only line I'm seeing in the sand, and it's way too early to introduce anyone to this character to give me God Emperor Doom. Like my eyes and my child in innocence is gonna be, yeah, I can't wait. But the movie critic in me is just gonna go, I don't want him. I don't want this at all. I don't want the actor either. That's just
Right.
me.
I don't want him played by RDJ either.
I I love Robert. Absolutely love him.
Yes.
I was there during the cocaine years. I'm here for him clean years. I don't want this at all because I don't want Doctor Doom to be a variant of Tony Stark. It is Victor Von Doom. He is the guy and needs to be a separate, if anything, brand new actor coming in to actually play this character.
The way you said I was there through the cocaine years, it makes it sound like you're sitting with him, like you're holding him up, you know, like
They're
like when
buddies.
he's over the toilet or whatever, and you're helping him up and everything. It's just
I mean, I'm a bro. I'm a ride or die.
me and RDJ, we're tight. All right, Allie, what were you saying?
When Angie was talking about not pinning everything on one guy, I was like, and so now we're going back to RDJ.
He's got the book behind him though. Like that's
Yeah,
the
I
difference.
mean-
Like it feels like it was kind of a throwaway thing I just thought about, but the more I think about it now, I'm like, yeah, they just ran back to what's safe. Like RDJ made
Yeah.
him a ton of money, and he's gonna play the game, so we're going
That
right back
is
to him.
exactly what they did, which I like. I think that there's potential for an interesting story with using RDJ as Doom, and I kind of think it's Doom in this story. I don't think he is every Doom. So I think that I'm kind of okay with the casting, but I wish that they had not gone back to the exact same well because it just feels like desperation. It feels like they went, oh no, we can't do this alone, and we have to go back to the person who we know people will show up for, and I don't think they needed to.
Well, I mean, I think one of the main problems here, and it has to do with the realities of the fact that Kevin Feige has to answer to Disney executives.
Yes.
Because I think he probably knows, as I well know, that when they made this pivot, they should have extended the time until the Avengers movies to set up Doom. But because of the
Yes.
fact they had already announced 2 Avengers movies, they weren't allowed to change the time. I mean, they've pushed them back a little bit, but basically it's like, we need to build to this event, and this event needs to happen soon. And so it's like, but we've just changed who the event is about. And you know, that's what they did. But really what should have happened is it's like, okay, we decided Kang isn't working, we need to set up Doom. Then it should have been like, there should be like another 2 years worth of movies then to set up Doom. Because to Mike's point is like, I get what you're saying, Allie, is that they can always have a different version of Doom show up. You know, like, because this is just a version of Doom for this story. But like what Mike was saying, they're going to go with like the most dangerous version of Doom right off the bat. So
no,
any
yeah,
version that
I
comes
totally, yeah, I am right there with you on doing, because obviously they're going to do God Doom, and that is the most dangerous version. And so yes, I am totally there with you on where we are going. I'm saying specifically about the casting.
Yeah.
I think they could do an interesting story with him, and I think this is going to be the only RDJ version of Doom that we see. But I'm right there with you with the.
Can I ask the comic-y folks, you guys? I feel like, how do I put this without Nathan coming for me? I don't. I have never really cared about the Fantastic Four, and I certainly have never cared about Doom at all, even remotely. And I don't get it. And my husband also tells me I'm alone in this opinion, so it's fine. I get it. I'm the wrong one. But everybody who likes Doom really, really, really likes Doom. And I'm like, how on earth do you get somebody to play this character that inspires people like me to think they're also the coolest? Like, you need a build-up. But I'm wondering,
Yes.
did they cast RDJ because the lay audience is already inclined to love him because he's RDJ? Like, is that really as shallow as it is?
I think
Maybe.
that's how shallow it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I will say,
And because they still
I-
planned on using Tom Hiddleston as Loki, and that would have been their other choice. Would have been, like they could do Tom Hiddleston, but we still plan on using him as Loki, but RDJ's done as Iron Man, so we can pull it.
Okay.
Yeah, Angie, I'm also not a Fantastic Four person, but Doom is amazing when
It's
he
fine.
appears in other ones, in other comics, because like I'm an X-Men fan, and so he shows up in X-Men comics occasionally, and whenever he's there, he is amazing, and part of it is just because he speaks in third person.
Okay.
That is,
I guess
I love that
Takes
too.
control of every page he is on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
There's a scene that from a comic that's newer than I've read, Mike, but I've seen it floating around Facebook where like Purple Man, like he's got Purple Man captured for some reason, and he's basically
Yes.
like, well, yeah, it's just because you're wearing that armor that you're so confident, but like, take off the armor. And so like Doom literally takes off the helmet and like Kilgrave commands him, like, release me. And he's like, how is this possible? Like, nobody has that force of will. And he's like, I am Doom. And I'm like, yes.
Okay, that is so incredibly annoying. I don't, okay, it's fine. It's fine. I know I'm alone. I don't want to, like, I'll just be over here. But I guess if it was me, I think the only way to really properly build up a Doom so that people like, I'm not going to say normies. I'm not a normie. But like lay people would have this affinity that comic readers have for him is to have him start out as a hero. Just have a movie or two where he's an ally and he's a good guy, just just a good guy, and then have the villain turn.
You're speaking my language. I've been saying he shouldn't appear in a Fantastic Four movie. He should show up in like Black Panther or something else. Either as there were two ways that I basically said they could build him up. Either reveal him as a puppet master that nobody was even aware was like doing anything. Or to have him show up and actually help the hero because whatever reason their agenda's aligned and whatever. And so make it seem like this is an ally. And then later when he's an antagonist, it's more, it's interesting because he's already set up the dynamic of, well, he helped somebody with something, so a character we care about. But yeah, that's exactly right. If this is more of what I would have wanted to see rather than trying to go for the more visceral audiences like RDJ, the characters are going to recognize something about him as Tony. And that's, I'm sure that's one of the threads they're going to pull on is because he looks like Tony and his voice is going to be like Tony's or something. And to me, that feels more manipulative and less. And I feel like it's going to feel, you get what I'm saying? It's not going to feel natural when it happens in the movie. It's going to be something that's sort of like we're trying to force you into this and we're trying to force the narrative into this. And I would have liked the organic growth.
It's from outside the narrative, not inside the narrative.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm worried about it. I don't want to talk about this for the whole thing, but I'm so worried about where they're going.
Podcast. We're pivoting.
And we could say Kang wasn't the guy, but then it's like, fine. You could have wrapped up you still could have recast. You could have wrapped up the Kang story in a way that felt more natural,
Yeah.
and just to wrap it up, and then started building to your next story. And I think it is just because they had already announced 2 Avengers movies that they were like, well, we can change the titles, but we can't change the fact that those are the things that are coming next after Fantastic Four. And so, they tried to pivot, and it's more of a marketing decision, I think, rather than a narrative one. And I think that that's a really big problem that they're, because they want to do Infinity War and Endgame again. And I feel like,
Yep.
to Allie's point, when they don't have the narrative weight behind it, they're not going to reach that same high. A lot of people are still going to get excited because they see all these characters together, which, with the chairs as they go by, and we've got like 50 characters in this movie, but it's like,
We're all going to be excited about the chairs, okay?
right. I mean,
Although I will point out, we're talking about Phase 5, and we're all talking about Doom. We're not talking about the High Evolutionary or
right.
what was her name, Ben, whatever, for the Marvels, or like Red Hulk. Like, we're not there. There's not a good villain in Phase 5, I don't think. Now, Thunderbolts is almost more of an art house movie. The villain's depression. I don't like. That's kind of, let's set that aside for now. That is actually an excellent
Marvel
villain,
movie
but
that
it's
was like, it was made for me. Like, that's exactly a Marvel movie.
All right, so let's talk about Thunderbolts a bit. All right, so is there any? All right, so all the 4 of us, we all sort of like said we love Thunderbolts. Would anybody say it's not your favorite thing out of Phase 5?
absolutely not. Oh wait, of the movies, absolutely not.
Okay, yeah. Mike, is Thunderbolts your favorite?
I liked it, especially, again, I'm still on the high because I just saw it this past Saturday, and
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, but it's absolutely not my favorite.
Okay, all right. Well, all right. Let's talk about Thunderbolts, because to me, it's my favorite with TV or movies this time around. And, but again, talking to what Allie was talking about before, and while it's not necessarily setting up. See, here's the thing. It's not setting up the multiverse saga, but it's setting up the team that we're bringing into the multiverse saga. So, and it's doing that thing that I was talking about that the Marvels did. We're taking characters from different things. We're taking, I mean, I guess Bucky kind of already, and John already have a thing going on, but we've got Yelena, and, we've got Alexei, and we've got John, and we've got Bucky, we've got Ghost. And we're weaving these characters together in a way that all of their personal narratives feel like they're feeding into this story, and it feels like it's organic that these characters would come together and they would have this kind of a story come out with them. And to me, that's amazing. This is what Marvel does best, and this is what they have to do. Let it play out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anybody have like any other thoughts about that as far as like its place in in the narrative?
Signed, sealed, delivered. I agree, 100%.
It is character focused,
Mhm.
and that is what works about this team. And even though we've got 2 pairs of characters who already knew each other, we've got Alexei and Yelena and Bucky and John. Both of them learn things about the other person, and those, I mean, I wouldn't say that Bucky and John were friends, but their relationship deepened. They came to a stronger understanding of each other throughout Thunderbolts, and even Alexei and Yelena became deeper, and so everything was all about these people coming together as a group. And that's what made it work. Like, because it was so character focused. Give me more.
I couldn't believe, like, if you had told me at the end of this, Bucky is gonna be cool working with John, I would be like, no.
Right?
Like, that's not going to happen. But they sold it because of the way that they had to come to. I do love the fact, though, that when he has them all tied up, he lets everybody else go and leaves John tied up a little bit longer than everybody else. It's like, all right, I can buy you guys, but I still have a problem with him, But yeah, like it's that kind of stuff that I think makes Marvel great. And so that sort of dovetails into another one of the things that I wanted to talk about. Natalie, you talked about it a little bit when you talked about homework. It's interesting to me that you agree with it because I called BS the second that Feige said, because what is the thing everybody talks about? I want the end game experience again, and I want all the things to like talk about, like how many times did people scream, why are they talking about the celestial that popped out of the
Yep.
ocean,
Oh my God, yeah.
And so, like people want more of those references. And so I personally don't feel and I feel that it's shooting himself in the foot for Feige to sort of say that watching all of our content is work because that's a problem, and if you feel that way, it's a problem and that's on you. It's not on the audience.
Right.
But to me, like so depending on how you read between the lines of what he's saying, and I don't think this is literally true. But some of the things he's talking about is going back to like separate timelines for the characters and stuff like that was like kind of like a line
Hmm.
that he put in there. So
Yeah.
taking it at its most literal, that would be like all the characters are going to be in separate universes. And it's going to be like the days when Marvel parsed out like their movie lines to different things and they never interacted. I don't think that's exactly what's
I don't think
happening.
it's
I'm
gonna
just
be
saying,
like
but
that.
that's literally like kind of like if you took it literally. Um, and I have a problem with that. I have a problem of seeing it as homework because that's the strength of Marvel is that they've done the interactions and they've done that. And then to me, I don't like this homework comic, and I don't think it's a good thing for them to try to like promote that as like the line.
I don't think it was for
I
us.
mean, it's not for
I
us.
don't think that, I think that is, well, no, I think that line is cluing my mom, the secret geek. She doesn't know she's a geek. She's a huge geek, but she's the one that's like, oh, do I have to watch anything before I go see this movie? I'm like,
Hmm.
no. She she's not a completionist. She's not going to go seek out all the Disney
Hmm.
Plus shows on purpose, right? She'll eventually watch all of them because secret geek. But like the people who make that comment that I have to do homework before I watch this movie are a more like lay crowd. And I think that is who that line is for.
Right, but I never heard anyone make that comment until Feige said it, and now I'm seeing it everywhere.
Really, I hear
Oh, I
it
heard it
all.
all the
I've heard
time.
it for years. I have heard it
Yeah.
through phase five, through phase four. All of my friends who were diehard Marvel fans, they all fell off out of Endgame mostly because of what happened to Steve Rogers. And, and I didn't blame them. Um, but they all they came back, they watched Thunderbolts. Um, but they were concerned beforehand about if they were going to not understand things. And so like I gave some, no, you don't need to watch that, or hey, you personally want to watch this one. But they've all felt like it was homework. And I really think it has to do with getting behind. So if you
Yeah, they missed
have
one and then they
yeah,
never caught up.
if
Yeah.
you've missed one or two, then it feels like, oh, I've got so much to watch before I can do the next bit. And so I haven't heard any of the complaints about they haven't talked about X thing as much as I did in phase four because I think people got behind. And so now they're like, well, I don't want to do that homework. I don't want to know where it was or not know the thing that they're talking about. And they're kind of like, I like that not being quite as interconnected. Um, but again, that's just like it feels like they're having to course correct for their audience, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Um, because it can affect your story, but also if no one's going to see your movie, I mean, not that no one's going to see any of these, everyone's going to see these at some point. Um,
Yeah,
but
I
it
mean, all
does.
right, but here's the thing, because I mean, you and Mike come from a comics background like I do. I still call BS because this is the same problem comics have had to deal with for since the 60s at least, where, you know, yeah, like you want your characters to interact, but you also want people to be able to pick up any issue and know what's going on. That's in the writing. Okay. You write
Yeah.
it in such a way that you use characters and situations from other things so that it heightens the experience for those who have seen the other thing or read the other thing, but is accessible to the people who are coming in and they haven't seen the other thing. And so again, I feel like this whole thing of saying like it's a problem and it needs to be stopped and Feige's own prejudice against television because apparently he was dragged kicking and screaming into doing the Disney Plus shows in the first place. But like he's like, oh, much less TV, much less TV's the thing you should be doing more of.
Yeah, I
That's the
agree.
thing that you really should be like focusing more on because that allows you to play with more pieces, and do more because it gives you more time. Like, and I don't know. I disagree with so much of what he said.
The one live action show a year, I'm like, no, that's so bad. There should be like three.
Well, and the thing is, this is the perfect place for the continuity light too. Is like I'm fine with them going back to network TV. Like do another show on ABC, but have it be things that aren't going to cross over with the movies. Do more street level. Do things that are characters that it's like, or maybe only like maybe once in a while they show up in another property, or once the show is canceled, maybe then. But like they should be thinking of it more as a multimedia platform rather than as just this is a movie franchise and the TV shows are a sideline. And I don't I feel like they're learning the wrong lessons from the low box office.
Yes, um I think there's a lot of wrong lessons being learned, particularly in terms of them assuming, well, part of the problem was that they were applying their movie formula to television,
Hmm.
which you can't do that. And they did at least learn that was a bad thing, and they have
Hmm.
corrected that. Um, I don't know um how I really just I feel like there's a lot of this idea that low box office is always a bad thing, and I just like the way things are going now, I just don't think that it equates. I don't think it means the same thing. But
Yeah, because it's down across the board.
yeah.
Very few movies are making the numbers that they used to, and those tend to be fairly unique things. Like
Yep.
Superman's doing okay right now,
Hmm.
but it's not a smash bang success, and the drop off was like 55% between weekend one and weekend two. So
Yep.
it's like, that's the thing. Nowadays, there are the people who want to go see the movie, they see it in the first week. And then everybody else just wants to stay at home. And that's the studio's own problem for shrinking the time that it takes to get something out on digital. And so,
Hmm.
because the number of times I've heard people say, I'm not going to the movie theater, I've got a widescreen at home, I'm just going to wait for it to come to digital, is a huge number. Like, that seems to be like the thing. So, that's why when James Gunn recently said that the reason people aren't going to see movies anymore is because they don't have finished scripts. And I'm like, that's not the reason, buddy. Like, you can give that
Mm-mm.
as your narrative because that's your dig at Marvel. And I did like that Feige said, like we can have a
Yeah.
good script that's made better through the process. That's sort of a shot back because it's like most movies alter because it's a difference between like
Yeah.
shooting without a finished script, like a script that's not even done, which is what Spider-Man 3 did back in the day,
Yes.
where it's like you don't even have a script really, you're just shooting things. Um, there's a difference between that and saying like the script is finished because like you can continue refining as you go along in the process.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, but I don't think the audience is aware of that and to any degree, and I don't think it shows up in the quality to the degree that people are like, because I've asked people, do you think quality of movies, not just Marvel movies, but just movies in general is down? And most people are like, no, no, I don't think movies in general are like any worse than they used to be.
Hmm.
So I'm like, so if that's not the perception, it's totally because they have better home setups and the movies come to their home way earlier. That's the reason why people aren't going to movies anymore. It's not a perceived like quality issue with like new movies coming out.
Well, and going to the movies continues to get more expensive. I think a lot of
Yeah.
Hell
people
yeah.
pick and choose what they will see in the theater. Versus like when I was a freshman, sophomore in college, I would just go to the plan was I'm going to the movies. The
Hmm.
the plan was not like
Yeah.
I'm gonna go see this movie. The plan was I'm going to the movies. What's playing? I'll pick something. And now it's very much am I gonna see this movie in the theater? Is this worth my leaving my house? Is the return, like the visual and audio spectacle, worth the return of being one of the movies I go to the theater for versus waiting
Hmm.
for streaming? If
Yeah.
movies were cheaper, I think more people would go see them in the theater instead of waiting for streaming, even with a big screen TV.
Yeah, I think so too.
I know because Allie and I sort of talked a lot about the homework thing. I don't know. Do you, Mike? Do you have anything to add about the homework comments?
Oh, I don't let that negativity into my life. I've definitely seen the rhetoric, and it's my social media. That's a block right there, buddy.
It must be the Facebook algorithm because I swear I never heard anybody call it homework until I saw the Feige thing. And then when I started commenting on the Feige's comments is when I suddenly started seeing that everywhere, like everybody calling it home. So I thought it was a thing that like Feige introduced into the zeitgeist.
No.
And not
It's got to be some Russian bot. Because I mean, the thing for me is like, oh, it's so much homework. I'm like, cool. It's a comic book. Like I can literally just go through all my discography of all the Marvel movies and just go, what do I want to read? I want to read Thor, and literally just follow the breadcrumbs all the way to a Thor story, go all the way through a Shield and Captain America story. Like just having to do homework. I'm like, oh, do I need to watch this TV show before I watch this movie? Hell yeah, you do. Go sit down, watch this, and shut the hell up. And if you don't, who cares? You still have the story in the movie.
Well, here's the thing that I think puts the lie to it. And to me, the thing that's like so ridiculous is it's like, okay, all that being said, I think pretty much all the Marvel stuff is pretty accessible if you want. If you don't want to watch I think you'll enhance your experience by watching all of it. But I'm pretty sure you can dip into almost. I mean, not obviously Infinity War, Endgame. You like don't watch Endgame as your first Marvel movie. I mean,
hate the
there's an
person.
exception. Although the HR lady at work, that was her first Marvel movie, and that was an interesting conversation where I'm in the office talking about something else, and she's like, "You watch those superhero movies, right?" Yeah. He's like, I was just
Great
with a
start.
group and we saw this movie, Avengers Endgame. And it was just like, that was her first Marvel experience. And it was like, oh boy. But yes, I'm glad that I'm known as that guy that watches the superhero movies. But yeah, I feel like most of the Marvel stuff is accessible because I feel like Thunderbolts. You can watch Thunderbolts without having seen Captain America and the Winter Soldier, without seeing Bucky in anything previous, without seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, because even though my wife has seen it, she did not remember Ghost, no matter how much I tried to remember this, remember that, and she was like, I don't remember this character at all.
How do you not remember the caged woman?
Right.
Yeah, my parents watched Thunderbolts with me, and they had no idea who most of the characters were. And I'd have to stop and be like, "That's Ghost. She was in Ant-Man and Wasp," and that was it. And they were like, "Okay," and like this is a person, but they had no problems watching it. And every now and then, my dad would ask a question. I'd say, "Just watch the movie."
Yeah, I mean, the movie wasn't really interested in telling us who Ghost was, but they also weren't interested in having her do anything. So that's the one failure, I think, of Thunderbolts, is I felt like all the other characters were so well, like, depicted in it, and then there's Ghost, who's just like, and also, like, it's like the camera pivots over. Oh, there's Ghost, like.
Oh no, we're locked in this room. Ghost. Come on, it guys. Oh, we're in the shooting. I'm not
the person
shooting
who doesn't show up to the gaming session, but their character's still technically with you. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But all right. So let's talk about so I'm really curious now. What is your favorite movie in Phase 5, Mike?
Favorite movie. I want to make sure you're saying movie.
Yes, movie.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I'm not counting that as Phase 5 because to me it's the last Fox movie. It's not really. It wasn't part of the Phase 5 announcement, and it's more of a Fox movie than it is a MCU movie.
I would agree with that.
If I have to remove,
it feels
Deadpool
like the last
Wolverine.
X-Men Fox X-Men movie, like range than it does.
I agree, but it is technically Phase 5.
Okay, fair enough. Why do you like Deadpool and Wolverine?
Well, first off, it absolutely was the ending of really the X-Men line of Fox, and I even gave it like it ends everything Fox. The send off that it does was magical. Even having Hugh Jackman as Wolverine back, that was fantastic. And honestly, it was also just Ryan Reynolds is just a fantastic person, and that movie from beginning to end was just phenomenal. repeatedly watch over and over again. I'm glad I own it. I'm glad it's on Disney Plus. Like I just cannot stop watching it and even picking up every itty bitty little piece. But I will say, even if I had to omit Deadpool and Wolverine, because that honestly is like an easy gimme, I will say my favorite movie of Phase 5 and the movie I will never watch to this day is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I will never watch that movie again. I watched that in a crowded theater, and I have never cried so hard in my life from beginning to end. And I refuse to watch James Gunn's, honestly, I'll call it a masterpiece. It was like as I saw it, I experienced it. It's in my soul. It's a PTSD trigger. I will never watch it again, but it is my favorite. It is phenomenal to see at least once. And if there's people out there who have watched it more than once, I need to make sure they're okay.
Interesting.
Interesting. It was heartbreaking. I have never cared
your
about that
reactions
stupid
are
raccoon
interesting to me.
in my life.
Because I'm like 180 degrees opposite from you on both counts. And then to be fair, I don't like any of the Deadpool movies. I'm a fan of the earlier, like the 90s version of Deadpool from the comics, where he wasn't breaking the fourth wall and stuff. I like him as basically being a murderous Spider-Man. I don't like this sort of he's kind of a good guy and we sort of wink at it stuff and all of that. But to me, the problem with Deadpool and Wolverine specifically was that he had to prove that he's selfless, which he already did in the movies we already have. And that felt like we're retreading ground. And then this whole idea of an anchor being was ludicrous because everybody dies. So no reality would ever exist if the anchor being dying causes the reality to cease to exist. And so that's so problematic too, that it was just like a series of random events. That, yeah, did I like seeing Wesley Snipes again? Did I like seeing Jennifer Garner? Did I like seeing Chris Evans as Johnny? That was all fun, seeing them again. But the movie was just nonsense. And I don't find I've never found Ryan Reynolds funny. I mean, when I first saw him in Blade 3 I've loathed the man. So like, I feel like it's verbal
you are
diarrhea
alone on that one. I would point out.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say,
I'll
Nathan,
be over here about Doom, but like you got to stand over on your own.
Nathan, I'm sorry for you to be so wrong. It's rare.
You like the anchor beings?
Do I like the anchor beings?
Yeah, the concept.
I don't care.
Okay.
I enjoyed the concept of it.
It's okay. I mean, the whole multiverse, like, this kind of like what they did with time travel too, where it's like they make the whole concept so problematic, it's almost pointless to even have it as a science fiction concept that you're using in the story.
I just don't believe everybody's telling me the truth all the time. Like, I don't.
Yeah. I believe that I don't think that they have it figured out some ways. But also, like, I think the idea of an anchor being is interesting from the meta standpoint of if you think about how comics, basically all of Marvel characters are in their 30s and they're allowed to, like, teenagers can grow up to their 30s and then they are the same age as the adults. and so like it's basically this idea that like they reach this ideal and so like when you think about it from that point, yes, there are certain characters that hold a franchise together and they're the one that anchors everything. And so when they die, they then get reincarnated because that's just the way the comic book world works. And in that case, yeah, the movie franchises work the same way. And let's face it, Wolverine is absolutely the anchor being of the X-Men universe that we have right now, the Fox X-Men universe. Wolverine is the center of it. And so as a meta commentary, I love it. as something that they should carry into the MCU proper, no. And if you're saying that it is a Fox, the end of the Fox movie series, then we're fine. They don't need to use it. Anchor beings?
And you know what? Hearing that explanation, which is fantastic, my brain just started going back to X-Men Last Stand, which is not my most favorite, and
Yeah.
just going with like, Anchor Being's dead. It's like, oh my God, that's what went wrong. Cyclops was the Anchor Being. Knew it. Make Cyclops relevant.
Yeah. No, I know everybody. I don't get what people like about those movies because
because you're broken and you don't like Ryan Reynolds. Like, I think that's the base
there's
of
no
it.
drama to any of them. It's just a series of random events, all three of them.
No.
Yeah, some of it's just like chaos.
And he had to prove something he already proved in this one, which was already like, okay, like what's the... But,
He was in it he was being a hero for the wrong reasons. He wanted to be an Avenger, and that's not the right reason to be a hero, man. Come on.
Yeah,
they spell it out in the movie very clearly.
But Guardians 3, so like Guardians of 3, it's interesting to me because, most of my problems with the first two Guardians movies is that it's just a goon fest, right? And Guardians 3 is definitely, it's got some of those elements, but it is definitely playing with like much darker themes than the first two movies. My sort of distaste for it is less about like the animal cruelty, which I know, it's not problematic to me, but I understand the emotional, visceral reactions that people have from it. My thing is more, it sort of highlighted something which I'm now noticing in other things that Gunn has done, like the recent Superman movie, which I mostly like. There's this sort of casual brutality in it. And I'm talking about things like Drax pummeling the child and like, it's supposed to be funny. And then we're supposed to say at the end of it that Drax is a good father when I'm like, he should never be near a child ever. That it's like Gunn seems to think that doesn't matter. And there's this sort of like belief that like, of having something like that like, it's like, oh, we can do this thing that's like really like wrong and violent and it's a laugh kind of thing, especially to children, which I have a real problem with. And it's like, it's okay. And in fact, this is a person that would be good with children. And I'm like, he never recognized what was wrong. He should never be near a child. Like, I don't know. I had problems with Guardians 3. I don't think it's a masterpiece. I don't think it's awful, but I don't think it's a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination. And part of it is also like the long scenes of things that are just like goofy, even though that wasn't the whole thrust of the movie, but I never care for any of that in any of the three Guardians movies. So yeah, I don't know. But that part's no different from any of the other two. I'm kind of curious, Angie, what were because you said that you didn't have the horrible reaction to it that you thought you might. Like, what were your overall thoughts about Guardians 3, Angie?
Yeah, so I didn't see Guardians until Force 2 for this podcast. And I was prepared. I had several people walking me through where I might have issues and need to, because the animal cruelty is kind of a non-starter for me. Just viscerally, I have a hard time handling that sort of thing. But because I saw it after Thunderbolts, I look at Thunderbolts as this master class in mental health. Like, it is showing us these people and what these situations have done to them, and they are grappling with those things. Whereas Guardians, it's like all these traumatic things get introduced, and then there's no commentary on it whatsoever. The movie does not seem to be interested in showing us how these characters, right? Like, Quill, I'm going to turn this into a huge diatribe, but like, for example, Quill was being a creep to Gamora, right? He was. That is what was happening. And it was coming from a place of grief, but the movie never comments on it. Like, it just kind of glosses through, and a whole Earth, billions of creatures all die. And we have a laugh because we had a farce on a spaceship. Like, the movie never took a break to show us anything about how these characters are affected by the brutality of this movie. And so in that, like, I didn't hate the movie as much as I was given to believe I would, because I think the people who love me were over preparing me for the movie. I didn't think it was a bad film per se, but especially after Thunderbolts, I'm just like, man, what a missed opportunity. I mean, really could have dug into these characters. And we've been with these characters for, 2 movies up to this point and a holiday special. And like, we've been with all these characters so long, I would have really loved to see some more emotional, like actually really emotional moments that weren't just punchlines.
I mean, but, to be fair, I considered it a win that Gamora didn't end up with Peter at the end of the movie, because I thought
that was right. That was exactly
I was worried
correct.
that's how that was going to go, is like, because I mean, if you think about the first movie, like, there's no reason for them to get together, but it's just like, oh, his overwhelming male machismo just overwhelms the most dangerous woman in the galaxy, and she's just suddenly like, oh, she's all about this guy, and I just,
Even if it did, though, that's the point. Like, she recognized this is bad. Like, this can never be, because this is just unhealthy. All of this is unhealthy. We are different people. He can't accept that. I need to be gone. But like, that's an inference that we as the viewer are taking. The movie does not make that clear, and the movie does not make Peter's creep factor like apparent as an actual creep factor. Anyway, but it was better than I thought it would be.
what
So
do
there
you think
go.
about Guardians 3, Allie?
I was going to say, thank you, Angie, for describing it in the way that you did, because I had been hearing all of it was so good, and it was not sitting with me right, and I couldn't put my finger on exactly everything that it was, but what you said is exactly everything that sat wrong with me. And I do think it's a good film in terms of telling Rocket's story, but I don't think it's a good film in telling the story of any of the other characters so much. I do love that we get more Nebula and Gamora moments, and um, I appreciated that. I would have loved even more. But I think it is primarily Rocket's story, and there was this like Rocket's been the protagonist all along, and I'm like, okay, I kind of get what you're saying, but also Peter Quill has been building the protagonist all along, and he is just like shoved out the door in the third one, and so it felt very whiplash. It didn't feel like a Guardians movie to me, which I mean, fine, not everything's gonna land. Um, and like my nephew wanted to watch a Marvel film, and he decided to put that one on, so I saw the end of it recently, and and I was like, this is fine. But to me, it's a Marvel film. I don't think it's one of the great ones.
I do really like Nebula in it. I thought that Nebula
Yes.
actually had like really great stuff in that movie.
Yes.
Yeah, and because that was the thing. I was thinking either Peter was going to end up with Gamora or he's going to end up with Nebula, and I was kind of glad he didn't end up with either one. So,
Either with
um,
Nebula would be terrible.
And I read that James Gunn went through a divorce while this was all in pre-production, and
hmm,
that tells
Oh.
me all I need to know about the
Yeah, that explains a lot.
Guardians movie. Yeah.
I did not know that. Mike, yeah. So, but what about on the Disney Plus side? What was your favorite one?
The Disney Plus side, um, I want to make sure I remember correctly, because what was it? Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier. That was phase
That was 4.
right?
That was
Four.
4.
That was 4. Okay,
Yeah.
just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So the
Um,
ones we're dealing with are Secret Invasion, Loki season 2, Echo, Agatha All Along, Daredevil Born Again, and Ironheart.
Okay. Man, that's actually a really tough one. I will probably actually say Daredevil, with a strong recommendation and strong love to Ironheart. But Daredevil was also just what I needed as a palate cleanse, because I love Charlie Cox. I love Vincent. I love Matt. I love Kingpin. I love that entire realm of cast and story that Daredevil exists from Netflix. And happy to finally see like we have this continuation And even seeing Frank Castle again, like that is really just a love letter that I really needed and was my favorite thing of all. Just a continuation, even possibly seeing more. And it's like, oh, maybe Daredevil will show up in the MCU. I don't give a damn if he shows up in the movies. I don't care. He lives here in the
Yes.
streets. That's what I want, is street level justice.
Yeah.
And Ironheart, I give all the many blessings and love to it, because it was, I don't personally, even again as a binger, it's like, wow, you gave me like 2 episodes a week almost. I think even one with 2 weeks had like 3. So it felt
it was
like
3
you were
a
just
week.
kind of throwing the episodes at us with no regard to really build up.
It felt like Marvel had no confidence in Ironheart.
Right.
Which is funny
That's
because
what
I
it
liked it
felt
a
like.
lot.
So
But
crazy. Yeah.
there was no advertisements for it, and then they like dropped it into
Wasn't it one that was shelved for a while too? Like it was completed
well,
and they
they
didn't
did
release it.
reshoots and stuff. Like I'm not sure how
Yeah.
much of that was because of the rework and how much of it was just sitting. But like,
I think it sat for a long time. Well, I think that they gave it time to do all of the CGI that it needed.
Yeah.
I think this is I think they were working on it. I do not think it was sitting done. But I think they actually gave them the proper amount of time to do the CGI.
And yeah, I mean, Ironheart definitely gets a lot of shout out, because for me it was really just the Easter eggs, and this was actually probably the first time that I did not know a Marvel character, because I wasn't there when Riri was introduced. I know that she stole the technology, trying to made her own suit and became Ironheart. But like Black Panther, and then even in this, like this is me as a fresh comic book Marvel fanboy coming in. It's like, all right, new character, show me who you are. Ooh, this is a little bit of a pivot going into magic. That's kind of pretty cool, especially introducing a character from Strangers Academy. So, but I think that Ironheart did a fantastic job with how quickly it was. Just seeing the Hood was also kind of just giving me goosebumps, because like I know the Hood, I know that dude, he is wicked. But yeah, Daredevil was absolutely my favorite. Strong shout out to Ironheart, and as much as I do enjoy Secret Invasion, that was absolutely the lowest of the totem pole for the TV shows.
we're gonna get back to your Secret Invasion in a minute.
I sit here and I loved Secret Invasion, but then of course, like I know there had problems as you're watching it, and then further along, it's like, oh, well, didn't you just keep getting knocked down the total pole of awesome? Here comes Loki. Everything else, just even Echo of all things, was better than Secret Invasion. And it's like, wow, you just missed the mark on that one, guys.
We're gonna get back to your love of Secret Invasion. But yeah, let's talk about Daredevil I mean, Allie and I already talked about it on the show, and so by the time this
Yes, we
episode
did.
comes out, everybody will have heard our thoughts on Daredevil. But Angie, like, what are your thoughts on Daredevil? Because you watched the whole Netflix show, right? You saw all 3 seasons. Yeah, in fact, that's right. You were on the season 3
I will be
episode
cosplaying Jessica Jones next week.
Hell yeah!
So
Excellent.
yeah, I was there for it. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any notes. I was so happy for basically the entire run. Yeah, I love these characters. I love the street level. That is my favorite thing about the shows. Like, give me more of the how all of this craziness is impacting, like, Joe at the bodega. How do we react to what's going on? Absolutely adored it. And everybody was in really good form. It was a tight script, like just enjoyable, well put together show. And it's one of those things where it's just so obvious when you have a large part of the production that loves what they're doing. Like,
Yeah.
I think Secret Invasion had no soul. Basically, it had no like spark of joy that anybody was enjoying being there and really felt for these characters. Like Daredevil, I mean, Vincent D'Onofrio, man, like that pitch perfect casting. He's loving it. He's hamming it up. Like Vanessa, like every character there is so happy to be there, and it really shows.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I mean, it's interesting because I mean, like one of the things that I've heard again towards like people having issues with the fact that Thunderbolts and Daredevil are ostensibly happening at the same time, and both of them should have things that are like things that
It's
the other
weird.
one refers to. and neither one does. And so again, speaking to this whole dichotomy, and again, comics struggle with this too. I remember when I was reading comics, how it would be weird when these world-altering events would happen in one book and the other books don't reference it. And that's why I enjoyed it more because in the late 90s, Marvel tried to make everything more integrated and they tried to tighten up all that stuff. And because like the X-Men had been on like their own continuity train for a long time and nobody ever referred to what was going on other than Wolverine appearing in everybody's book. Like whether you're an Avengers, Fantastic Four, whatever, Wolverine would show up. But that was the only X-Men reference that would ever like be in anything.
He's a Nexus being. Yep.
Um But they started trying to like undo that and be like, no, like the fact that like mutants are a thing and the public's reaction to mutants should also affect the superheroes. And the fact that superheroes are out there should affect the mutants. They started like integrating that stuff more. And I feel like again that it's I'm gonna go back to this thing that Feige is saying that like they should treat the TV shows like it's something separate. In that I think it would be stronger if there was a reference to the fact that Fisk was mayor in Thunderbolts, or if in Daredevil it referenced the event, just like how in Netflix Daredevil season 1 they referred to, I forget what they called it, but like the New York event, like the event.
They called it the event.
Yeah, the event. But
Yeah.
refer to the Void event or whatever. And talk about that, but it doesn't sound from his thing. He was like, yeah, no, it's not gonna. They're not gonna reference it in season 2.
There was actually an article that came out, I want to say like maybe a month ago, that basically sounded like they're going to go back to TV is a different universe from the movies, which on one hand, fine. On another hand, it's not what I want.
No, absolutely not. And I've definitely heard those same arguments because, I mean, again, like how many we had the Eternals movie and then everything after the Eternals, no one ever referenced the giant hand and robot coming out of the earth.
Yeah.
And everyone was that was everyone's main complaint. And I'm like, guys, can we just not look at this really on a linear in our time? Can we not look at, the Eternal movies happened. Yep. But then let's look at, Daredevil. Here's Daredevil not talking about animanium or anything. That's because it kind of happened maybe a week before the Eternals, Daredevil may have happened like an entire week.
Ali pointed out this is what I had been assuming. I had assumed because we had a 5-year jump in Endgame that they would wait for everything to catch. So all these things that were happening were actually happening about at the same time with each other, and that would have fixed things. But apparently Marvel isn't doing that. No. Apparently there are dated documents that Ali went frame by frame to see things and see all that. No, in fact, in Marvel right now, it's like 2029 or something. Like they're still 5 years ahead, kind of thing. So like, so they are still going 1 year in our time as 1 year in the MCU.
I don't want it shoehorned in, but I wish they wouldn't avoid it, right? Like they did it really well with Jessica Jones, right? Like they had even a whole episode and it's part of the fallout of it was really one of my favorite parts of the Netflix shows. So if it works, please incorporate the events of the movies, but don't shoehorn it in. Like you don't need some rando bringing up the hand and like
yes, it does not need to be
Danny Rand will bring that up. He'll show up in the bathroom and be like, "Hey, do you know I'm the immortal Iron Fist?"
Ask me about the dragon. Yeah, but like, there's ways to do it, right? Like, I don't mind there being more separation, and I'm willing to give some grace there that it didn't come up. It's not like these people don't know it didn't happen, but it doesn't. That's not the other thing to the story being
we're
told,
not happening to watch the news during the movie at the time when
There's
they're
a lot of
reporting
weird
about the
stuff
hand
going
coming
on.
out.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be on every conversation that everybody has. And in fact, once the shock of it goes up, people aren't going to refer to it at all unless they're a scientist that's studying it or whatever. Like it's not going to be like an everyday conversation. The people are just going to be like, "Hey, you remember that hand that came out of the Pacific Ocean? Like, isn't that messed up?" Like.
Well, and how long was the void even there? If it got resolved in 15 minutes in real time, like nobody else was ever like no one had time to be told there was a thing happening to think about showing up. So like if you're in Hell's Kitchen, it's just a thing that happened elsewhere.
I'm less bothered by the fact that Daredevil isn't going to refer to that than I am about the fact that Mayor Fisk and his anti-vigilante stance isn't going to come up in the Avengers at all.
That was mine. I don't care that they're not going to mention the void. I do care that they're not going to talk about the fact that, I mean, basically New York is supposed to be under
Martial law.
Martial law.
martial law at this point. So I'm like, what is happening? The so the timeline also is further screwed up by the fact that they keep releasing things that would seem to be after something that is actually before it. So like this is what I have pieced together from various watchings.
You can't
and then
see
also
Ellie's board
like
of red yarn behind
Right.
you, but
I let some of the YouTubers do my work for me. But in 2025, Echo takes place in June, but Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is in July. And then November is Secret Invasion. The Marvels happens sometime in there. In 2026, we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. October is Agatha All Along. Then Daredevil starts in November, that first part. It, of course, ends in 2027 because we go over the new year. Then Captain America takes place in April 2027. Thunderbolts is, of course, after that. And then I think Ironheart, I don't have a clear workout on exactly where it lands. And then, of course, Loki is out of time.
Right, yeah.
When does it take
Who
place?
knows?
Who knows? But like that jumps around a lot.
My problem with what
Yeah.
you're talking about, though, is that the Secret Invasion and the Marvels are mutually exclusive. I've tried thinking about it both ways,
Yes.
where if one happens before the other, there's if Secret Invasion happens first, there's a problem, and if Marvels happens first, there's a problem because either
So maybe Secret Invasion is on an alternate Earth and Maria Hill's still alive in 616.
Let's
I'm
just
actually fine. I'm
believe
totally
that.
fine with that one.
my favorite is Samuel Jackson saying that Secret Invasion and the Marvels are inextricably linked. You can't have one without the other. And I'm watching them. I'm like, these have nothing to do with each other other than the
No.
fact that they both have Skrulls in them. Like, and Nick Fury, of course. I think that was just him trying
Yeah.
to get people to watch his content by saying that, but it's just like so patently false.
Yeah, but it makes it very confusing to jump around in time so much. And even then, like Echo seems to take place closer to Daredevil than almost 2 years.
Yeah, because he was
And
back. He was back and
so,
left
like,
again. And
like
then...
there's just a whole lot of stuff that I don't understand about their timeline, and I would love to see their official timeline and see how they think it actually lines up, because what they've shown us, I don't think makes 100% sense. And on one hand, maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe we're just nerds. And on the other hand, we are your audience, sir. We
Well,
care.
you just gave me a way to bring Maria Hill back and forget that Secret
Yes,
Invasion
that's
ever
very true.
happened, and get rid of like the Super Scroll because I don't what.
I'm sorry,
God.
Mike.
So that we're gonna pick another randomers. That's where that one was. Yep, I like it. It's my headcanon now.
So the thing is, if you read what many sound bites that Feige has said, he's basically tried to say that like they don't think things out as deeply as we think they do, and they don't plan
for
things
shame.
out like
we'll
we.
work for free, Feige. I don't. What are you doing?
Right. Well, that's the thing. I think he's tried to get along, and for years it succeeded with the idea of if we tell a good story, the things that don't work in the periphery, people are going to excuse or figure out their own way around. And they've never really like worried too much about how, the placement in time and stuff like that and whatnot. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say that the post-Secret Wars, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I almost have to gag to say this, I think DC, from everything that I'm seeing, has the right idea now. So what Gunn is doing, and I think, and then this is the thing, if you see the Superman movie, the thing that comes out strong is that Gunn's strength is world building. Because
Yes.
what Gunn has done is he has thought through how all the things from DC Comics sort of fit into a timeline. And and is just going with it. I mean, yeah, you might disagree because I don't like the fact that we've got an older Batman with a younger Superman and some of that stuff, but it's the way he's going to do it, and he's just going to move forward with it. And he's planned that before they did the first movie. Like, he knows like the time, like how it all works. It even starts with like a whole thing of like metahumans have existed for 300 years. So it's not starting with Superman like so many versions try to, because then you like ruin other things that DC has done. We're saying like, no, there are actually things that happened before and stuff. So he's basically been like, metahumans have existed for 300 years. Like Superman's been around for 3 years at this point. Like, they give this whole like little thing at the very beginning that sort of sets like various events that have happened, throughout the timeline. And we know that that's what he's sort of seeing, is though he's not trying to drive everything towards a particular story. And that's what he said. It's like, but he needs to know that whole world and timeline so that then when they tell stories, they know how it works. Right. And so that way they won't contradict each other, but they're not trying to go to an event movie that they're building to. And I think that's the thing that Marvel should take away from Gunn. Not decrease continuity, just don't try to force events. Like, and just set things up. Like, think about how you want this all to work, and then you can have your TV shows and you can have your movies, and it doesn't matter that they're on different like production schedules and things like that, because this is where these things are happening, and so we're not going to contradict this stuff that these other people are doing, and that's the way that they should move forward. And I think that would be a more satisfying experience for the audience, because it takes care of the issue of you don't have to watch everything, because it isn't all going to cross over. But for those who do, there is that extra thing of knowing that, oh, this is, like this all works together because they've thought through all the connections and like where like this thing influences that thing and all of that. So that's I can't believe I'm advocating for a DC thing, but it makes me sick.
It's a good story. It's a good story.
No, I mean, as soon as DC had James Gunn's, like, it had my vote. My whole vote of confidence was behind James Gunn, 100%. And I think that's what's also hurting me with Secret Invasion, is that, like, I was so excited because I do love a spy thriller, and Secret Invasion gave me that itch.
Why was everyone so straight? It's a spy thriller. Why aren't y'all lying?
Right, there was no misdirection or things where there was a fake out. Like, even the scene where it's supposed to be Fury confronting the bad guy whose name I don't. I knew it was Gia. I knew it was her from the moment that scene started. I was like, it's just her shapeshifted as Fury. So the one thing that was like a misdirection even didn't work for me. So it's like...
But I mean, you gave me the scrolls. Like, you gave me scrolls. And now, and it's still in the back of my mind, like, all right, we got scrolls, but we got Kang. But I got scrolls. But you're giving me Kang. But you gave me the scrolls. Like, why are we not focusing on the scrolls? I don't give a freak about Kang anymore. You gave me one of the top villains on our planet, and you're giving me space, but now you're also giving me time because we're going back to Kang, and now you're giving me not space or Kang, now you're giving me Doc Doom.
I want to tee up on that, because that's the other thing. Don't tease things you have no intention of paying off, because they made it seem almost like we're going into like a world of, where it's basically like they're trying to do mutants without mutants and just making the Skrulls the thing, but
insane humans, we're adults,
of like a world that's so terrified that anybody can be a Skrull that they're like murdering people who may or may not be Skrulls just because they suspect it. But that isn't the world we're seeing on any of these other Marvel and in fact, if the Marvels happens after Secret Invasion, that's awful that Carol dumps a whole bunch of Skrulls on an Earth where people are out hunting Skrulls, like, I don't...
You give me they have a perfect opportunity to lean into even that Star Wars fantasy, because here comes Sword, thanks WandaVision somehow. You give me Sword, and we're going into space with Nick Fury and Skrulls, and it's like, all right, Skrulls, we're on your side, or at least this faction of Skrulls. We're going into space now to take care of every other alien race that we've met through Guardians of the Galaxies. Oh, here's the Nova Corps. Like, give me more of that. We're going into space. You're going to give me space. You're not going to bring in Kang and try and bring in multiverse or even more of that crap. It's like, nope, let's just cut it. We don't need Kang. We don't need variants. We're just going right into space and literally go up against all of these other I already forgot the name of the Charles Xavier's girlfriend's alien race.
Shi'ar.
Thank you, the Shi'ar. Yeah, I mean those are absolutely there, and we can easily introduce the Shi'ar. And it's like, well, what about the X-Men? It's like it's coming. I mean, we can introduce. We don't even have to see Leandra. We're just going to talk about their
The
people.
fact that they haven't just pivoted to X-Men right away is my favorite thing about the MCU right
Yeah.
now, that they're taking their
Yes, I
time
agree.
on X-Men.
That's a really good point, though, Mike. There's space everywhere. Why are we doing multiverse? Like, you've got Galactus, you've got, like, yeah, what are we doing? We had the Kree and the Skrulls and
Mhm.
Carol. What are we doing?
Yeah, I thought for sure once they
Why are we
acquired
pivoting to
Fox and
multiverse?
had the Shi'ar, that we were going to do like space epics. Like I thought that was going
Yeah.
to be like a thing, and it seems strange to me that we aren't going there. Like yeah, I felt like the multiverse pivot was a bad move from the beginning. Not that they couldn't introduce the concept of the multiverse in a movie, but making that like we're going to have a whole bunch of movies where that's like the theme, which of course they really haven't, which is kind of to Allie's
No.
point. It's only been a few. Um, but like I've felt that was a weird thrust for them in the first place, and but really I think the thing that they need to do is plan, and they really need to plan more intensely, not decrease the number of connections, plan more thoroughly so that the connections matter, and you're not setting up things that you're not going to pay off, and basically
Mhm.
make sure that the through line narrative stuff is is more efficiently done, and but also allows for people to come into an individual project and just take from that project what they need without having to see other stuff. And right now, I feel like it's more scattershot than it should be, even if they know that it's got to hit a movie called Secret Wars at the end of this. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like Secret Invasion is kind of the problem in microcosm where they didn't do enough planning to figure out the story that they actually wanted to tell, because they started off telling us that it was going to be a spy thriller, and then it's really not a spy thriller. And in terms of homework, I will say, I trying to rewatch Secret Invasion felt a lot like homework.
I didn't say you
I
had to rewatch it. I just
I
said we're going to
well,
mention it.
I try to rewatch this stuff on my own, but I only did the first episode because I couldn't go further. But part of it was that I immediately started seeing where they could have gone differently,
Hmm.
because they had us at the very beginning. I mean, they certainly had me at the very beginning where I wasn't sure if Ross was a Skrull or Ross. And if they had just carried that on for more than like 5 minutes, that would have been a compelling story. And that's part of the thing that everyone rightly complained about, was that the comic event was built up for a long time, where we discovered that people had been replaced. And this was, we discovered in the thing that people had been replaced and there were no repercussions for it. And in fact, the people who they had chosen to replace, repercussions are basically like Rhodey didn't get to grieve his best friend. And so it just becomes bonkers what they took away from characters. And that's part of why it doesn't work, because they didn't think through what the fallout was of this one story and the way it connects to the rest of their universe.
Hmm.
And actually, this is very much what you were saying, Nathan, about um they're doing story first and world building last.
Hmm.
And because they're not thinking, I mean, like, it is a continuity thing, but it is very much a world building thing, because you do have to think through, how does this story affect your characters, especially if you're doing something that is retroactive.
Well,
um
it hurt the move or the show too, because of the fact that I knew that a major character had to be a Skrull. It obviously
mhm.
wasn't Fury, so that meant it had to be Rhodey. So I'm like, I
Yeah.
come into the scene already knowing, because Rhodey's the only other major character in the show, because Ross has done, for like you said in the beginning of the first episode.
Yeah.
And then they killed off Maria, so it can't be Maria. And so
Yeah.
it's like, so then it's Rhodey. And so I'm like, so all these scenes where we're supposed to think Rhodey's actually mad at Nick and everything, and I'm like, I don't buy any of this because I already
Hmm.
know he's the Skrull imposter, because that's going to be the shock thing of Rhodey, we like Rhodey, but he's actually a Skrull. If they to do Secret Invasion right, and I didn't even read the comic event, but I just know because I understand logic of stories, and if you've got a bunch of shapeshifters impersonating people, that should have been a major event with a lot of A-listers where we're wondering which of these
Yes.
characters we care about is a Skrull, really. Or it
Yes.
needed to be a Nick Fury centric event in a spy drama where he doesn't know which of his allies is actually a Skrull. And they didn't do either of those things because all his allies, we knew on the face of it, were Skrulls. And so that we're just taking a human form. So there was never that tension that you're supposed to have in that kind of a story of, who is it, like which person is going to end up being the one that twists the knife in your back. And there were
Hmm.
some interesting things they played with the idea of Fury having a Skrull wife. I'll say that's the best thing about that whole show, and about
Hmm.
the idea of him allowing her to be who she is and talking about that sort of thing. Because Keith, who was on the show, who was on the panel where we talked about it, who's a person of color, we talked about that, and we talked about, like, the thing
Hmm.
about, being seen and being in relationships with people of another race and things like that. Some of that was interesting, but that was a peripheral thing of the show. That wasn't
Yeah.
like, it was supposed to be a spy drama thing, and we didn't get any of that. But
Yeah, but it's kind of the Marvel problem in microcosm.
mm,
Like it was basically every problem that Marvel has, it was in there, where normally you might only see one or two of those things appear in a project.
mm.
And they had every single problem. The rushed CGI,
Yeah,
the
that final fight with Gia is like
ooh,
hilarious, and how
Oh
bad some
gosh.
of the CG is, where she's supposed to be like forming like a Hulk arm or something, but it looks like this
yeah,
weird little like baby arm on her. So like the scale wasn't right or something. But like it was
it's very
bad.
yeah.
Um, all right, so yeah, Allie, is Thunderbolts your favorite movie?
Oh yeah, like
Okay.
hands down. Hands down favorite. Um
What was your favorite Disney Plus show?
um I I'm gonna say Ironheart,
Okay.
but Agatha All Along is very close behind it.
Okay.
I just rewatched Agatha, and so I'm having a hard time not saying Agatha. But
Singing
the
the song.
the thing with Ironheart is I think it is the first Disney Plus series to really nail the landing. I
Hmm.
think Loki season 2 did an excellent job, but I think Ironheart really landed an ending that left me um just like thinking about it, like I and feeling like the this was the obvious place that they were going. They were always on the path to this place. It didn't feel like it was a decision that was made in the edit bay. It felt like it was a purposeful path to that conclusion. And so for me, Ironheart landed it. But also because Ironheart is primarily about grief, I'm so sad it was not in Phase 4.
We had I mean, people who will listen to this one will hear Ironheart first. We had some very interesting conversations for Ironheart because it was a split between,
I'm not
liking it
surprised.
and not liking
Really?
it. And and people saying, like, even though it talks about grief, they didn't feel it, which I found very
Really?
interesting, because to me that was the best thing about it. I felt
Yeah.
like some of the actual episode plotting of what happens in the episode was atrocious in a few places. The
Hmm.
fight at White Castle, the less said about that, the better. But but the through line of the whole show, like the show's arc,
Yeah.
I thought was excellent.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And
talking about.
yeah, um, yeah, I thought, like, having a conversation with your hologram out of your suit when a guy that can turn invisible and can curve bullets might be walking around Like, okay, this is like the dumbest thing that anyone and
Yes.
it's that thing that they've been doing since the Raimi Spider-Man movies with people pulling off their masks in places where they could easily be seen because the director says you've got to see
Yes.
their face. And I
Yep.
disagree with that. If you've watched V for Vendetta, you know you don't need to see an actor's face to get emotion if the actor is any good. So, yeah,
Like a Halo.
and even with Iron stuff, we see inside their suit. We see their faces all the time. They just do a
Yeah.
virtual camera thing inside the. So I hated that. But anyway, there were
Actually,
lots of
hold on. I do want to slightly change it because the best Marvel TV series of Phase 5 is specifically episode 7 of Agatha All Along.
problems.
Actually, let me correct that.
Okay. Okay. All right. But yeah. So like Mike, yeah, thoughts on Ironheart?
I did enjoy it, and it definitely, again, that same emotion. She's having a panic attack. I was feeling that. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
Yes.
you got that. How you lost your sister friend is absolutely gutsy. That is real life. That is. It takes me to the same vein that Captain America and Winter Soldier did. Was really recognize that I am an African American in America. And so just seeing the parallels and knowing that life could have been me as well was really hitting home. But I will also glaringly point out those same issues where this is a giant suit making these robberies. Does no one know where this giant suit's going? Like, it's making a smoke trail.
Mhm.
Well,
Like, this is a glaring.
or the place you can't go into without metal. So Riri's got to get rid of her metal, but
Yeah.
then all the other criminals show up with metal all over, and they're fine. Like I don't like. There were
It's plastic jewelry. It's fine.
there were some plotting problems in the micro level on that show, but yeah,
Yeah,
all the stuff I felt Riri's through like because one of the problems that somebody brought up was that they felt like like having Natalie made her a horrible person, like agreeing with Xavier basically. And it was like, but do you understand that it's really her mind? Because she mapped her own
Yeah.
mind, and her mind is choosing to express itself as she hasn't resurrected Natalie,
Yeah.
like,
Well,
and it's
but
not just an
Mephisto's there.
AI,
Like,
it's
yeah.
her brain that
Yeah.
she
But
mapped.
she couldn't do it again. Like, oh yeah, I mean, spoiler, like my rankings are almost identical to Allie's, but Ironheart surprised me because it showed so
Yeah.
well, right? Like, is
Mhm.
Natalie just a product of her mind, AI? She couldn't repeat it. Mephisto's trickery, or is it some other sort of magic because she's been melding? Like, it didn't feel the need to explicitly tell you, but it also showed Riri's shortcomings without trying to sugarcoat them or whitewash them. She's an
Yep.
amazing
Yes.
character who for the record, disliked a lot in Wakanda Forever. Like,
Yeah,
did
we all
not like
talked
that
about
character at all.
that like she was
Yeah.
shoehorned into Wakanda Forever. Yeah.
Um, she is this brilliant, talented, traumatized, pig-headed, wrong-headed young woman, and the show let her be all those things. And her choice at the end is so fitting. And they brought us along for the ride where all of us are screaming, "Why did you do this?" But we know why she did it.
Yeah.
And like, great, fantastic. Let your protagonists be flawed. Like, let them
Mhm.
Yep.
do more like that.
Yeah, I think that in the end of the day, the person who really had problems with it, their problem was that they were like, I like to see like stories of young people like becoming like the hero. And at the end of Ironheart, she doesn't become the hero. And I think
No.
that was the disconnect is like, but I think that was intent, like that wasn't an accident. That was intentional
She's
for what
not in
they're
her
doing.
50s. Like, give her a year or two.
Right. So like, she is a hugely problematic person that makes a lot of bad choices and, and has some bad attitudes too. But that we had to have a
Mhm.
person who would be willing to make a deal with Mephisto at the end of the show. So she couldn't be completely like pure, of heart and mind and everything. She had to be compromised to be able to do that. So I'm like, we don't know what the next plan is. There's all these rumors of a TV show that's going to be Young Avengers and all but name, which will
Mhm.
probably come in 2027. But I'm guessing that's where this is all going to come to a head, and that's where this is, going to come out and more is going to happen. But this is fine to me. It's part one of a story about her. It's not, this is the
Yeah.
encapsulation of everything we get with Riri Williams.
I will point out
Yeah,
too, because one thing my husband and I always talk about, this was a big thing during Buffy too. If you suddenly find out magic is a thing and you can learn it, realistically, that should be your number one priority for the rest of the short-term future. And so props to Riri's mom, who finds out magic is real and immediately just leans in. She's like, what up? I'm assisting Zelma. I'm gonna learn this stuff. Good on you, Riri's mom. I agree.
All right. So Angie, I think you agree that Thunderbolts is the best movie, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. What is your
100%.
favorite Disney Plus show?
Yeah, I would put Agatha all along slightly above Ironheart, but almost for the same reasons. I love that they let Agatha be Agatha. I
Yep.
love that they let her be not a pure-hearted good guy. I love it. More of that, please. But really, I still listen to that song all the time. It gets stuck in my head at least once a week. It was so well done. Again, it's one of those things that was just obviously a labor of love for everybody who was involved. And that does mean something with these characters. It really helps you buy in and suspend your disbelief, even if the story falters a little bit. I put Agatha above Ironheart just because, Nathan, I agree with you. There are some things with Ironheart where you're like, no, what now? That doesn't make any sense. Where I think that Agatha was a little tighter
I could
there.
have gotten by the metal thing if it was mentioned once, but they mention it so many times in the episode that I'm like,
Right.
someone in editing should have realized this is a big problem and fixed it. Especially since they did have so much production time. It's like this thing should have
Yeah.
been scrubbed clean of all possible issues and whatnot. But I'm like, you made such a big deal about it, and then apparently it wasn't an issue at all. In fact, the thing the censors have a problem with is the laser, not the not metal.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what it's really detecting. It's detecting lasers.
Or it's detecting the BS is what it's detecting.
Oh.
Mike, thoughts on Agatha?
That was so trippy. That's absolutely, I will give Kevin Feige that really good attaboy, where you absolutely take a character that absolutely was from a great show and you gave them their own thing, and luckily it worked. And that's how you do a TV show. You're going to take an obscure character. Shang-Chi, loved the movie, probably would have been more successful as a TV show on Disney Plus. And so you gave us Agatha all along that has no rhyme or reasoning, nowhere that we're ever going to go with it. But here's a villain that you're now going to have to care about, but you don't care about her, but you do care about her. Oh, now she has a coven, and it's just it's just a really good quest. It's a D&D campaign, and I absolutely loved every moment of the trip. And yeah, absolutely at the end where you start seeing everything turn around, all the twists was just, wait, what just happened? There's another episode. Oh my God. Just thoroughly enjoy Catherine Hahn, enjoyed the entire cast. And that is also where we now have that nugget. We have that story in our pocket that we can always come back to, even though it may be 5 years down the road that we ever kind of see magic in that realm again. But I thoroughly enjoyed Agatha. And my girlfriend loved it as well. That is absolutely the number one show that she would go back to if I ever tell her, it's like, hey, we're gonna watch some Marvel stuff. Agatha right now. I'm like, but we have to watch one. Nope, Agatha. Script one division. We need Agatha.
Yeah, unfortunately, because they are slowing down the pace with the TV stuff, I think it's 2027 before we're going to see both Ironheart and the story that Agatha was telling coming, bearing fruit.
I have heard we'll get the Vision series in 2026 because they are close to
Forgot
wrapping.
Vision.
And yeah.
Right. That's why. So
Whatever.
Daredevil season 2 and Vision Quest, I think, is 2026.
Yes.
And so that's why I think that's 2027 when we're going to get
Earliest for
the Young
Young
Avengers
Avengers.
project.
Yeah, earliest for a young team will be 2027.
Although the storyline, I
the collecting their pensions adventure.
The Young Avengers Champions Strange Academy. Those are all the different
30
things
under
I've
30.
heard
That
called.
And
No.
to be fair, that's
They will be under
exactly
30.
where they should have gone after Endgame. You gave us, Phase
Uh-huh.
4 kind of looting some stuff. It really shouldn't have been, here's the big multiverse. Or hell, it shouldn't have really have been, here's the next space. We had as old, not really old people, but our generation. We had our generation of Avengers. Now it really is the bringing in the Young Avengers, bringing in West Coast Avengers, bringing in these new groups, and that should have really been the focus. But they were also, you have to kind of play it to the chest a little bit because you don't want to just send these kids out and be the new heroes. Because again, I mean, perfect example was Hawkeye. Love Hawkeye, but people were just angry with it. And it's like that's your new Hawkeye, that's your new Archer. Kate Bishop is it. That's the Young Avenger. And now you have America Chavez, who, especially in the comic books, love America Chavez. And we didn't get that America Chavez in the Doctor Strange movie, but it doesn't mean that we won't get her down the road. So we should have really been putting that effort into. Even Strange Academy should now be a big push to bring in these younger generations because, again, it's great to see Robert Downey Jr. again, but we now have kids that grew up watching the Avengers. They now want their own generation of Avengers, and that's where the Young Avengers really comes into play heavily, thanks to the comic books.
Well, and this is why the slowdown is so problematic because they've introduced so much new stuff, and now they're like, oh, breaks. We got to slow everything down.
Those actors are just going to get older.
Right. Yeah. And so like the time between paying off anything is increased. So either they're going to have to cut their losses on some things or they're going to have to do a hard reboot. I don't think they have the stomach for a hard reboot. I think it's going to be a soft reboot of some kind. But then it's going to be, what stories do we choose to tell? They're going to have to cut some characters just because they're like, we don't have the room for all these characters. And so they're not going to get any more story. Or if they do, they're going to be adjacent to somebody else. They're going to be a minor character in somebody else's story or something like that. So it's problematic. I really feel like they should put more emphasis on how do they make the pace that they have now work rather than trying to scale back. But maybe it's a temporary thing. Feige was talking about succession plans, which almost seemed like a wink and a nod to he's hoping maybe he gets a bigger seat at some point. And so maybe he's thinking more of, I just want to make the next few years work and then we'll see what happens.
Well, he only has like 2 more years on his contract.
Right.
So that's why they're talking succession plans.
Right. But I mean, but not only like his successor, but also could he then step up into another role higher in Disney? And so, that's what I'm saying. He might be eyeing, because he could always sign a new contract.
They need a new Bob Iger.
Yeah, he could always sign a new contract, and extend that. That's, But, But yeah, I'm gonna, well, actually, Allie, did you give your thoughts on Agatha?
Oh, I have 2 things to say about Agatha. One is practical sets. For the love of God, we need more practical sets. Yeah. And the second thing is just Billy Kaplan. I love my Young Avengers so much. I love Billy especially.
He was very great. It was very great.
I said it on the Agatha All Along episode. It didn't deserve to be as well written as it was. It kind of angers me that that's the character that got the good writing, like the really good writing, just because of the fact of, to me, there were so many more important characters that should have gotten the level of writing that show got. And so yes. I'm frustrated by it because of that. But I agree with you, Angie. I think it's probably the best show that they've done with this phase. I think that it's definitely had the best writing, and the only time that Marvel has gotten non-linearity right. I forget the name of the character now, but the one who's like living her life out of order. That was my favorite part of the whole thing, because it all makes sense at the end, and that's the way, for all the people that say
that's episode 7.
That's the for all the people who say that time travel never makes sense. I'm sorry that's been your experience, but there are plenty of stories where
Yep.
time travel makes perfect sense. And I don't like the whole, well, because it's time travel, we can just wave our hands and say any logical problems are just because time travel. I hate that. That's a bad writing crutch. Time travel can totally make sense if you create rules for it and you live by those rules. So yeah, so yes, I loved that. That was my favorite part of it, is that they actually, all the stuff that seemed weird or whatever, it all made sense at the end, and it was just like, oh my God, like an actual like narrative through line, and it all ties up at the end. Oh my God, like why can't they all do this? So yeah.
Why can't they all do this? That's the question.
That is the question.
Right, exactly. It's just like how The Expanse made me mad that other shows aren't that good. Because I'm like, and thankfully I've seen Now for All Mankind, which is also that good. But I'm
Yeah.
like, it's so rare. There's Babylon 5, The Expanse, and For All Mankind. Those are the only three shows that are written that well. And it's like, why can't other shows be like this, where you're just like, there is a story and every episode tells more of the story? Why are there so many shows that are either confused about what the story is, or go off on weird directions? Like they don't, there's so much filler like built into it. So yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Agatha was good. I don't like the character, but I mean, I can't, the writing was good. Like, I can't
Yes.
fault it. So it's frustrating. Um, so yeah, I mean, we already talked about Thunderbolts is my favorite too. I'm just gonna say, because we haven't really talked about it. It might be controversial. I know it's controversial with Angie. I loved the Marvels. That's probably my second favorite in this, because again, um, it was taking three disparate characters and weaving their stories together and paying off the things we already know about those characters, and moving things forward, and even doing probably most of the most work we've seen, even though it's not much. It's a post-credit scene for setting up like what's going to be the big event in there. And I mean, Kelsey Grammer. I mean, as soon as I had Kelsey Grammer as Beast again, because while X-Men: The Last Stand is an awful movie, that was the best. Like, that was such a great casting decision to have Kelsey Grammer play the Beast. And I'm glad, because he's such a nerd. Like, I don't know how much people know this, but he is like he like used all his like cachet in Hollywood to have like a cameo in Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh, that's
And
right.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and so like he loves being in these things, and he's mostly been like a comedian, like, and doing comedy stuff, but he loves doing science fiction. So I absolutely love that he got to be the Beast again. That made me happy. But I
You give me
like
Kamala Khan, and I am immediately there. She is
Oh, yeah.
fantastic.
I liked the way that the trio worked together, because Carol is overly serious and Kamala is, a bit on the silly side. But then we
Fangirl.
have Monica as this nice bridge between the two of them. And I thought that all of those, that the dynamic between the three of them, and like even the thing, so this is what I like. I don't mind when you have comedy. Like, people are like, Nathan, you're so serious, you don't like no, I love comedy, but the comedy, I want it to exist in a rational universe. So like, yeah, do we have the planet where everybody sings? Is that like sort of dumb and goofy? Sure. But the fact that Carol looks like she could die inside in every scene when she's forced to sing, that was beautiful. That I thought was hilarious, because it's like she also thinks this is horrible and dumb. And I'm like, so that works. That's hilarious. I love it. So
I love that planet.
there's so much about that movie that I liked. I think the only problem was the resolution was way too. If only we had asked some human scientists to fix our problems, they could just fix Hala like that. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But until that point,
that-
I was perfectly happy
Yeah.
with the movie.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put the Marvels that low, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
If we're removing Deadpool and Wolverine, the Marvels is like solidly mid for me.
Oh, okay. The way you talked about it on our panel, I thought that you were like,
I
this
had
is
some
awful.
problems, but like then I saw Brave New World.
Oh,
Yeah.
and or what do you think about the Marvels, Allie?
like you, I largely love it. But I can also see like they've got some serious problems with their villain um not being fleshed out.
Yeah.
And that is, I would say, the biggest problem that they have. But I think it's a fun space romp. I love the wacky planet where everybody sings. That makes sense to me. And then the whole thing with the Flurkins is so hysterical. I took my 14-year-old nephew to it, and the two of us were just crying laughing. And so to me, it is a super fun movie. So I can overlook that they had kind of a weak villain, but I can also acknowledge they had a weak villain.
I really feel like that at the end it should have been left messy. I get that they wanted to have a happy ending at the end
Mhm.
of it, but I felt like the happy ending undercut because that just makes Darben seem like truly insane that if you could just ask for help and people could solve this problem
Right.
easily, whereas if this was a real problem that it's like you can't solve it without like stealing from others.
Hmm.
Like that at least gives her some merit as a like, she's doing this to fix this,
Yeah,
but
she
yeah,
went to extremes too early,
right.
rather than that's the only fix is extremes.
Hmm.
I would have liked it if there had been some more negatives for Carol um as a result of, so it's a more of a sacrifice than
Hmm.
just like, Carol, you could have just not left them like that. What
Right.
is your problem?
It it also just doesn't work with like again Secret Invasion, but like it just makes Carol a horrible person.
Yes, it makes her look like an
Like
enormous jerk,
really, you
which is,
couldn't find another planet for them? You could like really, really,
well, I
really?
mean,
Okay.
there's certain ways in which Carol is kind of an enormous jerk, but this is not the way that the character normally
Right.
is.
Mm.
It's just kind of like you've you've made her out to be more like malicious even than and yeah, it was difficult.
Mike, what were your thoughts on the Marvels?
Did I'm not gonna say it was one of the weaker ones. I
Hmm.
did enjoy it. But of course, I'm always someone who just enjoys beginning to end. I'm here for the trip itself.
Hmm.
I will 100,000% agree about just a lackluster villain. Tom Hiddleston's wife is a fantastic actress. I do like her in a lot of roles. But I mean, even then, like even talking about it earlier in this episode, I'm like, oh yeah, who the hell was the villain for this movie? I know it's Tom Hiddleston's wife. That's all I got. I could. She fought Carol a lot. She really hated Carol. I don't know.
Oh, that was the
But
other thing that show did. The whole like they're switching while they're
Hmm.
fighting could have been a confusing mess, and they did it so well. I
It was
absolutely
so
loved
smooth.
that. Yeah, I
Yep.
I loved that, and I love that they actually. I get they trained for like 3 minutes and they're good at like
The
figure,
fact that they
but
showed it at all,
right,
good
but the
on
fact that
you.
they
Like,
showed it at
Yeah.
all, that's not, yeah, that the fact that they had to train for it at all, they did the and that's the thing, that is the film technique we have, the montage.
The
The montage is
montage.
magical. They should have used it in
yep.
Ironheart to truncate time for converting a car into an iron suit. But because that was the other thing I had a problem with
It's
Ironheart was I
totally
was like, it
fine.
was done overnight. Even the body work alone, using normal tools, that's like days of work, let alone the circuitry and all that. Like,
Not in Marvel.
but I was like,
We're
they
in
could have
Marvel
easily just
time
done a
now.
montage. The Hood didn't know she was alive. Just montage it, make it look like 3 weeks just passed in a minute, and then that way, and then she confronts the Hood. It would have worked. But
This is
anyway.
how the sliding time scale works in the MCU.
um but yeah, and you know, I usually try not, you know, I usually don't harp on visuals so much, but like I thought that that was one of the real strengths in the Marvels
Yes.
was that I thought all that fighting and the intercutting, I could follow what was going on, and it was visually interesting and it was exciting. It led a it gave it an excitement that just normal pew pew with like, you know, fist lasers, you know, like doesn't do. So I really appreciated that. And I really think Monica is the unsung hero here because everybody, you know, who, you know, likes like, you know, like the newer comics loves Kamala. And, you know, then there's the older crowd, people older than me who really love Carol. And then it's just kind of like, and here I am, like, Monica was my Captain Marvel when I was reading comics. And I love her as a character because she's like serious minded without being dour like Carol is. And, you know, she's, you know, I feel like she's like the strength in both WandaVision and in the Marvels of just like the sensible person that gets stuff done. And I absolutely love that. And so like I've been very pleased with the portrayal of Monica in both places. So I was happy for that. All right, so we're getting long here, and you know we've talked a bit about it. I about Phase 6. Um, I'm curious, does anyone have a prediction for what the mystery movie is? I have one, but I'm curious if everyone else does, because there's a July 2027 movie between Doomsday and Secret Wars. You only get one pick. Don't give me like five different possibilities. But does anyone have one where you're like, if I had to lay money, I think it would be this one?
Yeah, I got nothing. Blade, please.
They're not going to put Blade
Thanks.
there. I know they're still invested in Blade, but it's going to go after Secret Wars.
There's a bunch of them that I'm like, there's no way it's Blade. There's no way it's a Young Avengers thing. You know, I can mostly eliminate them. I would say most likely maybe they could put in like a sequel that we have, you know, like a Shang-Chi 2
Mhm.
or that there's been a rumor that they'll do another Deadpool and Wolverine. You know, maybe it'll be something like that. But I feel like most of the stuff we have heard about, there's no way it could be.
Mhm.
So I think it's got to be something that is one of those things that where they've already got a character established, so there's no and they may even have like a creative team kind of assigned to that character. I think it's got to be something like that.
Okay. Interesting. Does anybody else have a guess?
Avengers with Z.
That's a sequel.
I I would love it so hard they're not going to. If Avengers Doomsday was spelled with a Z and then Avengers Secret Wars was with an S, I would pay good money for them to change that because I think that would be amazing. But that's good. All right. So I do have a sort of minority report on this one, but I've been thinking about this really hard, and I keep coming back with this one because I think that much like between Infinity War and Endgame, they're not going to utilize characters that are in the first movie. So like I think anyone who's in
Hmm.
Doomsday is not a contender for the movie in between. And so
Okay,
then
yeah,
you
yeah,
think, okay, like either A, who hasn't been already announced for Doomsday, or B, what is something new they could do that would make sense? Because remember, Captain Marvel debuted
right.
between Infinity
Hmm.
War and Secret Wars. And then I started thinking, you know, it's kind of weird that we're into they clearly want to do a movie because they've always had a movie other than Spider-Man between
Yeah.
the two Avengers movies. There's always been a slot there.
Hmm.
And they moved that along with events. So even though Spider-Man is now outside of that in between, because they
Hmm.
they originally were going to do a multiverse movie with Spider-Man, but Tom Holland,
Yep.
thank you, Tom
Yep.
Holland, like pushed against
Thank you,
Sony, who really
Lord.
wanted that, and it got them to do a street level action movie. Thank you, Tom Holland. So now Spider-Man's coming before. So it's like, okay, like what, but why haven't they announced it? Because at this point, they have to already be doing pre-production and all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
because they're going to have to shoot it by next summer to be able to be out by July of 2027. I was like, it seems odd that we're almost on Fantastic Four and the start of Phase 6 and we don't have a Phase 6 movie announced. And then I realized, unless there's something that happens in Fantastic Four that they'll give the game away by announcing the movie, I think it's going
Ah.
to be a Silver Surfer movie.
Oh.
Can I get a Agatha
Ooh.
as nanny to the Richards
Oh,
Franklin. Yeah,
Franklin?
that'd be
instead?
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But
Agatha is apparently nanny to Billy.
I think we're good because they've been hinting at doing a Silver Surfer movie in some of the
Yeah.
interviews, and I was like, that would make sense because there could be the end of the movie might
Hmm.
happen in such a way that it makes sense then that the
Hmm.
Silver
Hmm.
Surfer is going to do something that will also like sort of double as like flashback sequences to explain her origin and all that stuff and all that kind of stuff. And then in Secret Wars, Silver Surfer might be important,
Hmm.
and so something like that. So that's my pick. Now my minority report, since it doesn't sound like other people do, so I'll give my second one.
No,
So
I actually I'm picking up what you're putting down. Like that makes a lot of sense.
if I'm not right about that, my other thought was because there was this weird thing where Benedict Cumberbatch didn't think he was in Doomsday
Yes.
until he was told
Yes.
that he was. I'm
Hmm.
wondering if he's just in a post-credit scene, in which case I'm wondering if Doctor Strange 3 is actually the
That
movie
yeah.
between the two, and where it's like, yeah, Doomsday has like a tease for Doctor Strange 3,
Hmm.
and then that's like sort of a movie happening in parallel with Doomsday that will then dovetail into Secret Wars. So those are kind of my two guesses, but I'm laying money on the
Yeah.
Silver Surfer one. I bet it's going to be Silver Surfer, and that's why they haven't announced it yet. And they will, like, right after Fantastic Four, like a week or two after, I bet they're going to announce Silver Surfer as the May 2027 movie. Or
I
July,
mean, I
July.
didn't even feel the Silver Surfer cartoon, so I don't know how I feel
Oh,
about the
you didn't miss
movie.
anything. That cartoon was awful.
I mean, my boy is literally just, I am the Herald.
Oh, I thought you said you
He
didn't see the
free
Silver
black.
Surfer
This is like, all right, I'm a surfer guy.
That
Woo!
that cartoon was such a disappointment. Yeah. Yeah. But okay. And so yeah, I mean, we've been kind of down on the Doom introduction and anything like any other thoughts about Phase 6 that you want to give before we go, with Phase 5, like anything that you either like are like, I hope that I see this or I'm worried about this kind of stuff. I mean, Allie, I know you live in this headspace, so I'm going to call on you first because other people might have to think more.
I will tell you, I actually am significantly concerned with Phase 6.
Mm,
But I was also concerned with Infinity War and Endgame and the number of characters. So
mm,
obviously they pulled in a team that they knew could handle all of those characters. So I think it'll be okay. Even though I am a little bit like, you guys have lost some of your shine because you are not recreating Winter Soldier, which is when you were doing a better job. um, so I think it'll be okay. I don't know if it's gonna recapture the same magic though. Um, but I will say Secret Wars is my kind of nonsense. So I'm still remaining cautiously optimistic.
okay.
Um, but like in terms of Phase 6 as a whole, it is hard for me to get like stupidly excited and optimistic about it because um Phase 5 as a whole has not been as stellar as I wanted it to be. However, like the last couple months of Phase 6 were great. Or Phase
Phase
5
5.
have been great.
Mm,
So if we're thinking in terms of they're building off of this and we're going forward, um I'm feeling like maybe if Phase 5 was our real low point, maybe we have turned and we are going uphill again.
okay. Yeah, I mean that's my hope too, because like I say, Thunderbolts was
Yeah.
fantastic,
It
and
was so good. It was so good.
yeah, so I'm hoping the magic is back.
Yeah. I have more hope for Phase 7, honestly, than
Yeah.
Phase 6.
All right, Angie.
Um, I'm torn because I feel like something that I like is that Marvel has taken a stab at things that aren't necessarily for a broad
Hmm.
audience,
Hmm.
and changed things up and taken those chances. And I love that they did that. But it seems like because the box office for those is not as high, they might be
Hmm.
pivoting back to spectacle to get people into theaters. And I don't know that I like that, to be totally honest. But I'm the one that just said I look and see is the visual spectacle something that's worth me going to the theater for. So maybe I'm the problem. Um, but maybe we just need to move away from box office being the big marker of success. I mean,
Yeah.
post-COVID, maybe we just got to shake it up and reframe what we're looking at as a successful movie run. Um, because I love that I saw Thunderbolts in the theater. It's amazing. But, if a lot of people caught it streaming, that's cool too. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to stop just looking at box office because the reality is, Nathan, you pointed it out yourself. Not as many people are going to the movies. But that doesn't mean that the movies are poor quality, or they're not worthwhile ventures. Just that we're not necessarily measuring their inevitable popularity or lack of.
Well, yeah, I mean, the production budgets are part of the problem because they have to make those up. But the thing is,
Oh, yeah.
Godzilla minus one proved you can have an effects heavy movie for a cheap. That movie was made $15 million. $15 million for a kaiju movie that looks excellent. Like, it's not like, oh, it's like a cheaply
Mhm.
made nasty thing. That tells me that people have been gouging price. Like, I think there's a lot of inefficiencies in the whole process. And and one of the things that my friend Sean, who's at least somewhat conversant with the movie process, has talked about is the fact that because too much isn't set, and this is more to what James Gunn was saying, because too much isn't said at the beginning,
Yep.
that requires more post-production work
Hmm.
than if the director knows every shot ahead of time and knows what the
Yep.
lighting needs to be ahead of time, and they set it up that way so they don't have to tweak the lighting in post with CGI and with all that kind of stuff. Like, that's one of the things you've got to do to really decrease those costs is like, just
Hmm.
do it right the first time and not like do a sort of vague movie shooting and then just fix it all in post. And again, that speaks to being planning more, and thinking ahead, but then you can that pays for itself because then you can get your production costs like way down. So then you don't need as many tickets sold to make back your
Hmm.
costs. So because that's always going to be the argument is we need the tickets because of the cost of the movie. So if we don't make our money back or only make a very little, well, I mean, all that time and we invested into it, then if we just made a little bit, like that's not really worth it. Um, but I think they're also not. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with the Spider-Man movie because they're saying it's street level. Because I've been saying all along, do movies that aren't super powered, cosmic. Do a Marvel movie about. I mean, I gave Shang-Chi as an example. Back in the day before we actually had a Shang-Chi movie where they tried to really up his power level, like beyond what it is in the where he's just a kung fu master in the there are no rings that he has, like he's just a guy that's a really good martial artist. But like you could do a movie about him or about Daredevil or about any of those characters that live on that level. Punisher, there are dozens of them. And just do that movie, and then you don't have to have a $200 million movie because it's a street level movie. It's not cosmic powers thrown all over the place. So,
Hmm.
yeah. Even Moon Knight doesn't have to have gods fighting in the back. Like, like
Yeah.
they make their own problem. Like Moon Knight is usually a street level. Yes, his origin is he was, he's basically like, gifted power by an Egyptian god, but the god doesn't usually show up. Like he's not there, like you don't need that budget to do a Moon Knight story. So anyway. Mike, anything about either thoughts, predictions, concerns about Phase 6?
I I'm definitely gonna echo that we just need to see more street level.
Mm.
Uh, And honestly, if that's the method that you have to go with to put street level on TV and then high budget everything uber fantastic in movies, and like, then let's just do that. Let's just go for it. Um, and because that's where I really want to see. There's been a lot of nuggets and a lot of things that we've definitely mentioned here in Phase 5 that can continue on into Phase 6, but Kevin needs to have the mindset now that he should have the Charlie Day string map meme
Yes.
of exactly knowing where his movies are going, and also then having a backup plan and then a backup to the backup plan.
Mhm.
Because I mean, it's unfortunate what happened with Kang, but I mean, making this pivot here was like, man, you guys did not do any thinking of whatsoever, and you're just really rocking this out, trying your best. So I'm just hoping for Phase 6 to be more street level stuff. I certainly just need to, even at the end of Thunderbolts, seeing how Bucky said how he interacted with Sam Wilson regarding the whole Avengers thing. Spoiler, it's interesting, and it's like, cool. Thank you for giving me that vocally. We definitely saw what was going on in Brave New World, because even Ross there was wanting a new Avengers. Hey, you need to make a new team. Figure out a new team. Like, I'll figure it out.
My
And now
concern
have
is we
this new
brought the
team from the
Russos
CIA.
back to do Civil War 2. Like,
Yep.
that's my concern.
That's my concern. Don't
And which
want
we all know
that.
from the comic book, Civil War 2 was not as good as the first.
Didn't
So
want the
let's not-
first one either, actually.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, the one thing I will certainly, and I meant to mention this episode, was really about the comparisons of TV and tying them into the movies. I mean, we all remember Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I love
Mhm.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I still love them. And that was also a big headache during that production at the time, because Kevin thought that it was like, hand holding those directors and creative writers for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to make sure almost every episode to a degree is tied somehow into the movies. And I feel like, 10 plus years later, I feel that we can do a better job of it now if we have our crazy string board of knowing exactly where to map things out. Because I love the tie-ins with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. into the big movies. Those are a huge thing. And I feel like, yeah, let's just do 2 movies a year. Let's have 3 TV shows a year. And those TV shows can absolutely be a little self-containing. Let's drop some after credit scenes that ties into the next movie coming out. And let's have that on the board and let's go with it.
They
Yeah.
should put Aman Vellani in charge of their continuity.
She has a good head on her shoulders.
She does.
I will say, so again, I'm gonna gag again because I'm gonna say I think Gunn's doing this right, because he's saying, like, basically they're gonna establish one new live action show a year, and then it's a thing. So it's like it will continue to get seasons as long as there's a demand for it's getting views and whatnot. And so, not this sort of idea, like Marvel keeps viewing each of these shows as a movie, and it's basically gets its 6 episodes or 8 episodes and it's done. It's not really taking advantage of TV. TV is for more long form storytelling. And so I like that model better of, okay, we're not going to like do a bunch of shows, but let's just keep spinning off a show. And if that show is successful, it'll get a season 2. Well, then we spin off the next show. And if that show is successful, it'll keep going. And then we spin off another show. And maybe that first show is canceled now, but that's fine because we're going to do a new show now, and just keep doing stuff like that. And I think that lets you have all these balls up in the air and whatnot. But again, they have to be shows that are about characters that you don't want to heavily reference in the movies and whatnot. And if
Or
you
as
know
a
how your
proving
world is going,
ground.
right, or it's a
Yeah.
proving ground.
I
and-
actually think that from this phase, we got Agatha all along being a character who's never going to show up in the movies. Echo also, and Echo is a solid show, like, but it was also a character who I think was not the right character for the show, like for doing in a show format with the limited exposure that she had. When I got really excited about there being TV shows when we hit like Age of Ultron, because we suddenly had Wanda and Vision who we had never seen before but needed to care about. And I thought them and Hawkeye were the perfect characters to be given television shows. And those were the first characters to get television shows. And I wish we had stuck with that format, that it was going to be series that would be mostly about a character who maybe appeared in one heavily charactered movie that we didn't get to spend any time with, and or a smaller group of characters with who we didn't get to spend enough time with, and using it as a way to expand the universe, and with occasional like, oh hey, you know what, we're never going to do Moon Knight in the movies, so let's put Moon Knight in a series. But I always felt like that was the right thing to do. But you needed to be very, very careful about who. And like I mad props for what they did with Echo and the depths that they went into the Choctaw Nation. Like like I absolutely love that. But I think she didn't have enough juice in Hawkeye to get enough people saying, I want a show about that character. But they had already decided that that was the character that they were going to do. And I think that's some of their mistakes. I think they need to wait a little bit and be like, oh, okay, that's the character that had the juice. So that's the character we're gonna talk about.
Well, and that speaks to the other thing that I wanted to tee up on that Mike was saying. So, JMS, who wrote Babylon 5, he talked about trap doors, and what he meant by that was even though he had a 5-year narrative, he had alternative directions to go. So he had an actress who left the show, who there was a whole story arc for, and she left. But the thing was, he had already set up the character that could replace her and have the narrative oomph that original character was supposed to carry forward. So it's like he had alternate plans for everything. So, I mean, it takes a lot of work, but there is a way to do this in a way that you can pre-plan but allow for variables. I'm not even saying they have to plan that strongly. What I'm saying is they need to know how they need to plan the world better and then just set stories in that world. But yeah, I mean, but there's a whole nother level of it that says like plan out the movies and what your intentions are and then just say, if this isn't working, maybe we don't do this, we do this instead. And sort of have like an plan Bs, sort of in there. And don't do a lot of work on any of them until you see how the first thing has succeeded or not.
Yes.
But then just have an idea of this is the alternative, plan. If this thing doesn't succeed, we're going to do that thing instead.
And yeah, like having TV gives them the opportunity to have these backup plans, right? Because one, you can introduce a character. John Walker is a great example. John Walker's in Thunderbolts now. He was introduced in a show, right? The actor did well enough and the reaction was good enough that he went to the movies.
And that he received death threats.
Well, from crazy people. But my point being, right, you have a show, right? Like Obadiah Stane, right? Or Ezekiel Stane. No interest. I had no interest whatsoever. But if he showed up in a movie, I'd be happy. I'd be excited to see him there. Yeah, like that's a great opportunity that Marvel has, and I feel like it's not that they've squandered it, but like they don't seem interested in continuing that practice if they're limiting the number of TV shows.
I love that you brought up John Walker because you absolutely hated him when we talked about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I was like, that's because they haven't done what they need to do with him yet, and then they did it in Thunderbolts, and now you're on board.
I was supposed to hate him. That was the point. Like, the actor was phenomenal.
That's one of the things that's so good about that transition is, I mean, I hate John Walker. It's obnoxious. But also, like, the thing that they did right in Thunderbolts was they didn't excuse the behavior that happened on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Right. They continue to call back to it. I mean, they say, you straight up murdered that. and he's like, did I? And everyone is like, yes, you did.
Well, no, it was like innocent, like he's like, I would, like innocent, who says innocent or whatever, or something like that.
But I mean, like it's so good because it lets us know that he is not a redeemed character, but he is a character who maybe we can eventually root for. Because there are steps being taken, and now he's with people who will call him on his crap, and he'd never been with that before. And so you can see maybe this character has room to grow, and like that's part of why that movie was so good, because it was so focused on the characters. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna weep
Well,
over it
and he
constantly.
knows that he screwed up. Like, even though he might defend
Yes.
himself to others, he knows, and that's the thing you get from the performance is that he is
Mhm.
ashamed of himself. He dwells on the fact that he, like in his mind, what does he think about? He thinks about his wife coming in and being angry at him
Mhm.
for ignoring their screaming child. So, like this is a thing that he dwells on. So,
Yep.
like that's it shows that he knows that he's completely screwed up as an individual, and so like that's the first step, right, to being
Yep.
to fixing yourself, is realizing that you have a problem, whereas he was not ready to admit that he had a problem by the end of Falcon. In fact, he was like, I'm back, like I got a new costume, isn't it great, like yeah, he was, yeah, but yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, for me, Phase 6, I mean, I am super worried about Doom, like I said, and that being really, I mean, it's hard to rate between him and Magneto to me, which is my favorite of the Marvel antagonists. Because I love them both for different reasons. But Doom is very, very important to me, and I feel like Doom is being rushed, and I feel that he's going to
Mhm.
be deployed in a manipulative way to try to get audience reactions rather than it makes a sense for the narrative they're trying to build. And I really worry that they're screwing whoever the new Doom is going to be at whatever point they have a new Doom by
Mhm.
going to the absolute most. Again, this is conjecture, but knowing what I know about comic storylines, even ones that I haven't read, and knowing what Secret Wars is,
Mhm.
I'm worried that they're gonna basically be like any other Doom's going to feel like a step backwards and not feel as threatening. And I hate that, because we shouldn't have like an all-powerful Doom as the first version of Doom we see, because we should get the threat of this guy is really that smart and that determined. That should be the threat of Doom, and the superpowers as the cherry on top should be like a level up. It shouldn't be like, we should already be intimidated by base level Doom. And so yeah, I'm a little worried about all of that. I am excited to see Ian McKellen again, because speaking of my other
Yep.
my other love antagonist, I love Ian McKellen as Magneto. X2, still one of my favorite superhero movies. Just absolutely, I'm just so excited to see him again, and it'll be fun to see a lot of the X-Men actors again. That'll be good.
Yes.
And I'm glad that Spider-Man is going to be a street level hero movie. And so, and since they're saying that, I'm really hopeful that we're going to see it, and then they're not going to do the cosmic stuff. I mean, I know they're saying Hulk is going to be the guest star, because, all the Tom Holland movies have to have one A-lister guest star, with him. But I'm kind of curious then if they're also saying street level, what they're doing with the Hulk in a street level like type thing, where he's not just going to smash up New York or whatever.
Hulk destroys streets.
Well, I know but that's the whole
Yes.
like line, Brave New World, he smashed up Harlem, blah blah blah. Like I don't know. It doesn't that feel like a retread of a movie we did 15 years ago?
I was just being cute. I
I
don't.
don't
I
know.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious about that, but I want to see it. I'm really excited.
Punisher's supposed to be in it.
John Bernthal, yeah. Punisher's in it.
Oh yeah, but I mean he's
Yeah.
also street level, so I don't consider him as like being like out of the class
Well, I'm
range.
just saying it's another piece to put into the what is the Hulk doing there?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. So anyway, we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic. Like I say, I'm just really mostly concerned about Doom. But I'm really excited about Spider-Man. Um, I should mention about Fantastic Four. So the one thing though that I'm worried about with Fantastic Four, beyond everything else, is I have this fear that the movie is going to be about the Fantastic Four they're going to lose, their world's going to be destroyed, and they're going to be refugees into the MCU Earth. And that's not what I want from the Fantastic Four. And I realize that, Angie and Allie, you don't have like a strong like through line for the Fantastic Four. And Mike, I don't know if you do. But to me, like Fantastic Four is just good, clean family fun. Like, and I had this bad feeling that like the story is gonna be they're fleeing their destroyed world, and that's why they're in the MCU now. And that's not the Fantastic Four that I want. And I feel like the whole idea to set it on another Earth kind of misses. Like, I feel like they did an easy path rather than the hard path, which would have been like trying to do a take that worked with the MCU. Which is what I was looking forward to. That like they did with so many other characters. They took these Silver Age characters and they put them in a modern Earth setting, and they said this is how they work. And they've done a fantastic job with all the Silver Age characters. But Fantastic Four, they set them on an Earth that's more, like it's a 60s comic book, sort of world. And I felt like that also is just that it's not what I know a lot of people are losing their minds over it, but like to me, it's like it's a cheap shot, and to me it's a weaker way of going. But we'll see how it turns out. But
I will say it's what I want because I like retro futuristic kind of stuff.
Retro
I do like that design aesthetic.
I don't know how you would do the Fantastic Four at this point in the MCU without it feeling like where the hell have they been? To have them as having always been heroes, which is
I don't think you need to. Just have them go up in the ship.
What they want.
I don't want to spoil anything for Fantastic Four based on the trailers that have come out, but I have a theory. So Nathan, I'll tell you after. I'm going to check and see if I'm right. You can, if I'm right, you can give me the.
Yeah, I can edit it in.
Yeah. We'll just never mention it again. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's not. I mean, they could have just had them. This is when the Fantastic Four go up. They could have been people working for Sword. Like, I don't care. Like, but thinking of them in a way that works within this context. So again, depending on what reboot means for post Secret Wars, maybe this is all moot and this is just a temporary thing. But
I think it will be.
But yeah, I would much rather have them think about like how to actually integrate it in without it being they just stepped through a portal from another world. But and I certainly don't want them to be depressed because their world was destroyed. Like that just that's not what I want from the Fantastic Four. Like not from those characters. Like
yeah, I understand.
Yeah, let the Guardians have some trauma. They can
anyway. All right. So yeah, we've been talking for a while, and Angie's going to reveal a secret to me after this, so I want to get to that. So
just a theory.
All right, so let's say goodbyes. Let people know where they can find us. So let's start with you, Angie. Can people find you?
Absolutely not. You may listen to me here. Have a good night.
Mike?
I'm barely on the socials anymore, but you can probably still kind of find me on Twitter at This Is Trex. Twitch.tv/TrexLight as well when I get this studio actually get back up and running.
Yep. So Trex is spelled T-Rex, people, because he's a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's your sound bite, Mike. You got to do it.
Yeah.
All right, Allie.
You can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram at Selfwinding. And if you want to find more about my writing work, it's allymartin.com, ALLIMARTIN. And I'm also on Patreon, same name, Allie Martin.
Angie, Mike, and Allie, thank you so much for being on the show.
A blast.
And that's a wrap on Marvel Phase 5. Of course, you know now that we recorded this one back before Fantastic Four came out. I wanted to have an authentic review of Phase 5 without any foreknowledge of what Phase 6 was going to bring, as well as being able to give Phase 6 predictions without having seen Fantastic Four already. So we went into that little narrow window between Ironheart coming out and Fantastic Four coming out, and we did the recording. But I knew because we were catching up on the Marvel Disney Plus releases that it was going to be a few months before you heard it. So I'm just curious, what did you think about the episode? Obviously, our Phase 5 review, no change as far as when we recorded it, as far as what we think about it, but also what our predictions for Phase 6 are. And what are your predictions for Phase 6? We would like to know that as well. So you can let us know in a bunch of different ways. One way is to email us at everything@42cast.com. Another way is to go to our website, 42cast.com, and leave us a message on any episode, this one or any other episode that you want to comment on. You can go to our Facebook, facebook.com/42cast, or you can go on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, or Threads, and leave us a message at any of those places. You can also go on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, or Threads at 42cast and leave us a message there. You can also leave us reviews on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. With Apple Podcasts, the advantage is that the more reviews that we get, the higher we show up in searches there. So if you have an Apple account and if you haven't given us a review yet, we would really appreciate if you would do that. You can also help out our show and all the shows on the ESO Network by going to the ESO Network Patreon. You can find that at patreon.com/ESO Network. You get various perks for various tiers that you contribute to. You can get early episodes of some shows, you can get exclusive episodes of some shows, and you can get access to a whole exclusive ESO Network podcast. So if you have the funds to contribute, and if you would like to do so, we would greatly appreciate it. All right, by the time this episode releases, I'm hopeful that you will see at least Legendary Forces or Time Streams off of hiatus. I know I've said in the past that Time Streams was my priority. Looking at everything, I think I'm going to try to get Legendary Forces going first. So hopefully by this point you've seen that. Hopefully by this point you've seen both of them, since I will try to get both of them off of hiatus by the end of the year. But I'm recording this about a month and a half in advance. But that is the plan. I believe that I've lined up everything to do that. So keep watching this space for more updates. The outros for my 2026 episodes should be synced up more in a timely way. I was just trying to get all my outros for the end of 2025 done in a fairly short span of time so that I could focus on getting those other podcasts ready. So that was sort of the mindset that I was thinking of there. But for those who have never heard of those shows before, Time Streams is a Doctor Who podcast where my friend Juliet and I are going through Doctor Who from the beginning. She's never seen any of it before. I've seen all of it many, many times. So we have some really great discussions. Legendary Forces is a show where Juliet and I again, but joined by Joe, Ashley, and Corey, are going through all of Star Wars from the beginning. And that's everything. That's movies, TV shows, books, comics. So we're talking like the old Marvel comic stuff from like the 70s and 80s. You know, that kind of old. It's not considered canon anymore, but that's part of the discussion. We're talking about the stories themselves, how they speak to us, what we think about the quality, but also what we think about how Star Wars has evolved. So if that sounds interesting to you, that's Legendary Forces. In watch news, there's not too much different other than Beth and I have started watching the Penguin series. Even though I liked the Batman, I was never too thrilled with the idea of doing a villain-centric series. I do think Colin Farrell did a remarkable job with just hiding himself under that Penguin identity, both with the physicality, the voice, and of course all that makeup that makes him look like Richard Kind. But I tend not to be a person that wants to see things that are villain-centric, especially when it was going to be like gritty mob boss type stuff. That just seemed like it wouldn't really appeal to me. I've got to say, I'm pleasantly surprised with the first episode of Penguin. I'm a little more excited now heading into the rest of it. Both Beth and I were somewhat amused, and even though it does have a TV MA rating, I feel like it's not gratuitous in a way like a lot of things with the TV MA rating are. Now, of course, the next 5 episodes may prove me wrong on that point, but it seemed like it was realistic for the type of world that it is, but it wasn't just inserting graphic content for the sake of graphic content. So, looking forward to the rest of Penguin, and we may end up doing an episode on it depending on how I feel, so keep watching this space for more info on that as well. No change on convention news. I'm planning to go to Chicago TARDIS 2026, otherwise I'm not sure I'm going to be attending any cons. But I will definitely update if I change my mind, if our financial situation turns around. So I'll definitely keep you updated on that. All right, that's a wrap for this week. Join us back next week when we'll be doing an interview from Chicago TARDIS 2024. That's right, it was another one of the interviews where I get to be on the main stage to interview guests, but they weren't Doctor Who guests. They were Blake 7 guests. So talk to Jan Chappell as well as Brian Croucher. So come back next week to listen to that interview. And until then, this is Nathan, signing off. You have been listening to the 42 Cast, copyright 2025. Got a question for the ultimate answer? Contact us at everything@42cast.com. Theme music is Sharper Swords by Brandon Ellis. Check out more of his work at www.cityfires.com. The 42 Cast is a proud member of the ESO Network.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.